stuff. I know some of our friends and whatnot are gonna hop on, but um, yeah, folks. So this is a little different from what we normally see on my Twitch channel. Usually we're shooting the crap, playing video games and whatnot. But um, we're gonna refer to you as Gord. Is that cool?
That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. This is my buddy Gord. We've known each other for what now? Like
Oof.
12,
11,
11
12
years?
years, somewhere
11.
there.
It'll be 12 years this
Too long.
September. We met in school, and he's always the guy that I've kind of avoided political conversations with and that kind of stuff. And I think up until like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, obviously with everything that's going on, or not avoided. Let me backtrack a little bit. I would kind of touch on the subject and be like, "Hey, I don't want to talk about this," because I'm always the guy that's always only talking about money and that kind of stuff, or video games. And obviously, I would talk to him about like girls and whatnot. But when it came to this kind of stuff, I'm like, Godfrey's very knowledgeable, one, but also he likes to attack the issue head on. Like, no, let's talk about it. And it often puts me in an uncomfortable situation, which I usually embrace, but with this kind of stuff, I'm like, nah. So this whole stuff that's been going on with like the, black like racism, Black Lives Matter and whatnot. He kind of put me on the spot, and I did the same thing, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to talk about it. And he's like, dude, you need to talk about it. And I was like, all right, fine, let's talk about it. And it was an eye opening conversation, and yeah, that's why we're here. I was like, you know what? The stuff that we're talking about right now, I think could be very useful for people who are very much in that space where they're like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't know how this is going to be received. I think it could be a good eye opening experience for peeps to start talking about that, or just an avenue to drive maybe awareness or that kind of stuff. Anyway, does that sound fair for an introduction, Godfrey? Is there what do you want to get out of this? This guy's laughing. This camera
Pretty
shy all of a
much.
sudden.
I just found it funny because it's true. Um, you're always you're good at dodging and diving.
That's what it is.
This time you weren't
Floyd
dodging and
Mayweather,
diving.
man.
You couldn't. Yeah. This time there was no getting around it.
Um,
I don't know. I think just kind of based off what you said, these are hard conversations. Um, sure, they're hard. They're hard. They're awkward. But I think it's necessary. It's the most necessary thing, especially now. I think right now people are saying, sure, it's not a safe space because I'm scared of what people will think. And yeah, I think social media has emphasized that to like the nth degree because you see someone comment something, doesn't matter what side you're on, boom, you're getting blasted, right?
yeah.
Um, uh, so I think people look at that and they're like, man, I don't want to be that next person that's just a meme or being joked about on the internet. But I think like it's important to especially first have them privately with your friends. I think not even for you understanding, for them knowing that you've got their back is, or just knowing that they know you're thinking about it, right? And as a friend, that is them being like, okay, you know what? This is something that's bothering you. I care about you, so we're going to have this. It shouldn't be always be the other way around. I shouldn't have to always come to people and be like, listen, let's talk. If you really care about me, you would know that this is a contentious issue for everyone, black, white, it doesn't matter. It's hitting black people, especially personally. So I think it's important for ends of black people to be like, you know what, this must be a challenging time for my buddy. Let me see how they're feeling. Let me understand this. Yeah,
Okay. That's
I
and
jumped right into an answer.
no,
There was no intro.
that was a good answer, right? Part of the reason why I keep you in the circle of friends is how direct you are. But I think that was perfect, right? So, like you said, it's lending an ear and showing that you care, by bringing up the conversation proactively, right? So that's huge. Okay, so and Erock saying, "Yo, I'm down to vibe with this is my background noise. I appreciate it, Erock. Thank you, man." Um, Okay, so now let's go a little bit deeper. You kind of addressed the topic, like from a broad sense. Now let's talk about you. Like, how do you feel about what's going on?
Um, it's like asking someone how do you feel about it right now is like if someone texted you. In fact, I did have a friend that texted me and was like, "Oh, how are you doing? How's 2020 going?" Such a loaded question. There's so
Mm,
much.
right.
Right? So how am I feeling? Man, I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling pessimistic. I'm feeling optimistic. It's just always as you kind of you're consuming content all the time, as you're seeing things. It's not just about what you're feeling, but it's like what you're seeing, and you're like you see a lot of people coming together, and you're like, great. Then you see what's on the news, and you're like, man, nothing's really changed. Um, so I'm feeling a lot. Want to be optimistic, but um, I'm just let's just say I'm happy. Um, I'm really excited about where this is going, but I'm also cautious, being like I want to see afterwards. Once this momentum is over, once the tide is over,
Mm-hmm.
who is still swimming to who is still thinking about this, who is still acting on this,
Mm-hmm.
not because it's easy and because it's right now the thing to do, but because you know what, I really internalized this and I see now. Right? So I don't know how many people there are like that. Like I said, I'm more pessimistic than optimistic. So long story short, how am I feeling? A
A
lot.
lot. Okay. Real quick, missing note. Thank you for the support. I appreciate the host, buddy, and CDO's in the comments as well. He's a mutual friend of ours, so welcome everyone. Now, okay, so before I go into how you're feeling, actually no, let's go into that first. I was kind of in a similar boat where I was just processing for the longest time. And I think the conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago drew that out of me. You know what I mean? You're like, yo,
Mm.
dude, like you need to you need to talk to me about this. Like, let's talk, right? Stop ducking it. And I obviously like posting the black photo on Instagram, and then I even took a step back from just posting my regular stuff for a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I was just like, you know what? Let's remove the regular programming so that there can be a louder voice for everything else so it's not drowning it. I could have done a little bit more, 100%, right? um but yeah, even like I think that the timing that you and I are having this conversation is actually not a bad time, because you can see that the momentum is kind of like dissipating a little bit compared to what it was 2 weeks ago, right? So I'm like, I don't care about how many people watch this. I care about making sure that we bring that tide up a little bit. I was thinking about it before this, right? So yeah, so I think that's kind of interesting that you bring that up. Now here's a question for you. If I don't know how to have this conversation with someone, I have an answer to this, but I want to hear it from you, right? Because like we talked about this at work, managing a team
Mm.
and all that stuff. How would you approach it with someone that, let's start with someone that you're closest with, obviously, because then you're more comfortable with them, right? How would you approach it with them?
Right. This is this is a hard
It's
question,
hard, yeah.
and um, don't look at me as an expert. Um, but I think because it's hard, everyone keeps coming out with this is how you should do it. This is how it's done. Like
Mm,
it's
there's
not
no
always
cookie
going
cutter.
to. I don't think there is like some sort of stencil way to do it. Right. It's like for me, it's just yeah. Sometimes we're just gonna have it. If I'm close with the person, we're just going to have it. Other times, no, it's a um slow progress into that conversation. The thing is like I don't know if I'm honest.
Okay.
You've just gotta kind of muster up the courage to have that conversation, because I think that's the biggest thing stopping. It's not how do I have it. It's oh, what is the other person going to think? Do I have these thoughts that they're going to disapprove of? And it's kind of like what I said to you, where was like, be as honest as you can with me because I don't want you to say stuff that I want to hear, right? Um, I want to know exactly what you think about this.
Mhm,
Right? And a lot of people are doing what they think people want to hear. That means you're not really changing. Right?
mhm,
You haven't given a thought. You're just like, oh, I need to tiptoe because I'm scared of them. Um, Coming from South Africa, and I'm sure, but I've heard it a couple times, but coming from South Africa especially, I think the one thing that like you appreciate, but like you know what? At least I can see the racism right in my face, square in my face. I know where you stand, and I know where I stand. Right? If you're not having those honest conversations, you could be telling me what you want, but the on the other hand, like I'm trusting you, and you actually don't hold those true feelings, right?
mhm,
Because you actually believe otherwise. Like the first step, I think, is not how do you have it. It's just be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. It's gonna be hard. There's gonna be um, words said, but the thing is, like, I just keep lying to yourself. Right? You're not helping anybody. You think you're helping yourself probably, but you're not helping anyone by doing that. You're definitely not helping me.
mhm.
Right? Um, so I think it's just be honest. It's like you have to first look at yourself and be like, man, like, yeah, I think I'm not racist, but it doesn't even matter if that's the point. It's just, you know what? Yeah, like there's some things that I'm gonna say that might be tough. I think I need to say them and understand. Otherwise, think about when we had that conversation. If you didn't tell me and just told me what you thought I wanted to hear, I can be like, Dave, dude, this is why I disagree with you. At no point was like, Dave, you're stupid.
Mhm,
I think I was just like, look, Dave, like this is why I disagree with you, and this is why I believe you're wrong.
mhm.
Right? At the end of the day, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, if we don't have that conversation, and
We're just left with
kind of,
assumptions.
we're both left with assumptions. You're just kind of going about thinking the same way you were.
Yes.
And um,
I think
so, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So real quick, so one of the things that we identified as at the company I work with, like obviously, like it's weird because you don't want to just do things for the sake of doing things and checking things off the box. You want to do it from a genuine space where you care, right? So
Yeah,
that was a big thing for me, right? I don't know if that's where the management team was getting at, but I'm like something needs to be done here, right? We have a very diverse management team, so that's a cool thing that works in our favor, but we also have folks that, and we have to acknowledge that everyone's going to react to this differently, right? Some people are going to be like, you've got some people that are just like, oh, racism, it is what it is. Like, like it's a fixed variable. It's going to happen, whatever, right? Some other people that are going to be super passionate about it and they're like, yo, this is excellent, right? We need to use this momentum to start initiating change. Then you have other people that are almost crippled by this, right? They like some people can't even get out of bed because this brings out like scars from their past and then they can't think about anything else, right? So I think just to build off of your point there, it's being vulnerable, acknowledging that you may not say the right thing every single time, and if you say something wrong, like if you're genuine with your intent and you want to get better and you care where the other person's coming from, then you're not going to force your opinions on the other person. You're not trying to convince them that one person's wrong or right. You're going to understand where they come from and then you're going to realize, okay, cool, this is what this person values. And then when it comes to that self-reflection piece, I think it's huge because I think a lot of people might have some preconditioned notions of how they should feel. And it's kind of looking yourself in the mirror and be like, is this who I want to be? Do you know what I mean? Is this right?
yeah.
Like, do I want people to see me as this person that has this viewpoint on it? And if not, everyone has the capacity to change, right?
I don't even think it's not about is this what people think of me. Like, that shouldn't even be the factor. It's like
Who I
this
want
is
to be.
just a humanity thing. This is just simple, right? Like that's what I mean. This is it's not about what people think. You shouldn't care about what people think because I know personally that was a huge crutch for me, right? Growing up, always worrying about what people think. Um, should be, look, like these are your beliefs, or this is just right. You know? Why are people being judged based on their skin? Well, why is that even a
Hmm.
thing? How is that normal? Right? It doesn't matter what other people think. It should be like this issue is just it's just crazy that we're still having this issue.
Yeah, it's it's insane. So here's a question for you that I had, right? Um, talk to me, and you touched on it briefly. You're from South Africa. You moved here when what? You were 15, 16?
I was born in Malawi.
You're born in
Born
Malawi.
in Malawi.
Okay.
I grew up in South Africa
Okay. You're born in Malawi. When did you move to South Africa?
when I was 2 years old.
Oh, when you were 2. Okay. You moved here when you were
Yeah,
16, so ish, right?
yeah, somewhere there.
So you spent.
Hey, I'm terrible at
That's okay.
remembering
That's
these things,
okay.
but
We
yeah,
just need we don't
somewhere
need
there.
specifics. It's just so you spent the
Mm.
majority of your childhood in South Africa. Okay, so let's start with South Africa. You mentioned that there it's blatant where you stand kind of on the scale, right? So talk to me about that.
Oh man, South Africa is just like it's a crazy place. Um, to just kind of give you some context, when I moved here, my brother-in-law and my sister moved here a couple of years later.
Yeah.
We've both been here for a couple of years, and we always laugh and we're like, man, I could never go back to South Africa because of that atmosphere. Like, I shouldn't have to be questioning every person's motives based on their skin color. Right? So in South Africa, it's like it's in your face. It's also very nefarious. Um, it's it's like it's hard to describe, but
Well, like, can you give me
a
some
good
example?
example
Yeah.
is I'll give you a good example of the atmosphere there, where when you're driving, right? You
Okay.
have, let's say, you have a disagreement between you and I on when we're driving.
Right.
A lot of times here, it's just, hey, fuck you, you're in my way, screw you, whatever,
Yeah.
screw you back. There, a lot of times it ends up in a physical confrontation. The testosterone is in the atmosphere where if you question me, I need to I can't back down and be like, oh, sorry. It's like, no, I am meeting your aggression head on. That atmosphere is there, and it's really driven
I see what you're
from the
saying.
past, the very violent past that South Africa has. So growing up, um, when I was a kid, my my parents they moved here. Coming from Malawi, it's not the same atmosphere. You don't know about, well, not you don't know. It's just apartheid is this new idea. So we're coming in like '92, which to give you some background is 1990 negotiations started to end apartheid. 1994, apartheid like officially ended. So we're coming to South Africa during this transition. So you can imagine the temperature, racial temperature in South Africa at that point, where
Can we pause for 1 second there? Talk to me about what apartheid is, just in case people don't know.
apartheid was a system that by people it was like the Dutch and the British were the former colonies of South Africa.
Okay.
They had the system where basically based on your race you were put in a certain class,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everything was systematic. So like there you have white people, have uh, call them Indians, but that's brown people,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they just classify everyone Indian, right? You have again Asians, and then you have coloreds who are they're basically a considered separate race. So if they're kind of like a mixed race, right? So white and black person is considered a colored person. The kid
Ah.
they have is
Oh,
considered
really?
a colored
They it
person.
defaults to that.
So
Okay.
correct. And so these rights and privileges are passed on, right? You can't go into a white person's washroom, black person's washrooms there. So this system is designed to kind of oppress, especially the black people.
Yeah.
And, and so it's a very, if you want to know more about it, I'm not doing it the justice.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Just Google it.
That's
But
messed
basically,
up,
it's a
man.
system that they put in
Yeah.
place that says black people are at the bottom of
Yeah.
society. You don't get these privileges. you live in this area, right? So you're given a separate living area as well, from white people, and obviously it was not very favorable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so they're doing this
um,
transition while you're moving to South Africa as a
we moved
baby.
to
Yeah.
South Africa
Yeah.
at 92.
Okay.
Um, and at the time, we lived in like a small township that was predominantly black. I don't know the exact of it, but my parents were basically like, look, we want you to go to a white school, live in a white neighborhood, because ultimately that is your competition.
Yeah.
That is like the sad state of things. Like, think about how from the beginning, that's a sad realization. You're like, you have to basically, this is who you're competing with. So at a young age, I moved to a white neighborhood. I'm a kid. I don't think anything of
Yeah.
what's going on. I remember my mom stopped working. She was the one giving us transport, making sure we get home, get to school and home safe. Um, and yeah, it was just as you can imagine, a very interesting time where I didn't understand that these people don't like me, but there were small things that you would see. Oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, like
That was weird.
different,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like I still remember my best friend back then, Brandon, white kid. We were all fine. I don't know where he is now, but like we just there was never a thought. Um, and Yeah, so grew up as I got older. We moved to different neighborhoods, more affluent neighborhoods, and ended up in a place called Santon, which is kind of like it's like Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
metropolitan city.
Okay.
Went to school there, and throughout my school, there are these small things that keep hitting you where you're like, huh, this is weird. This is not how things should be, but you kind of learn to accept them. So, for example, um, you would know that you're being treated like a second class citizen. I remember going to the store,
Yeah.
and because I didn't speak the local language well, they would speak to me in the local language. I would respond in a broken accent. I'd be like, "Yeah, you're not from here," to your face. Like this is someone that's bagging your groceries. Um, and a lot of times you're just kind of explicitly told you are a black person and not worth much, man. Um,
Wow.
you kind of had to learn to just kind of take the punches, especially being always being raised in a place where I was a minority. My parents were like, emotions weren't a big thing in my family. It is, listen, you've got to be hard because that's the world that you're coming into. Everything that comes at you doesn't matter. Just you know, just work hard at school and you'll be something. That
Mm-hmm.
was like it. So you can imagine as all these things are happening, it's even hard to kind of talk to people about it because you haven't really been um, you haven't had these conversations with anyone. You're just kind of internalizing these things,
Mm-hmm.
and it really hit home how crazy the situation is. And actually, I moved to Canada because throughout my school there, you're you're kind of being taught that yeah, things are different. Things are fine now. Everything is fine. Or things are getting better. We're more metropolitan. The school I eventually ended up going to, high school, was pretty diverse. It was a good white-black split because the black middle class was now starting to rise as apartheid ended. There was a growing black middle class. So there was a pretty decent split at the private school I went to, and we all got along for the most part really well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I said, I only realized how crazy things were when I moved here. And number one, people are just all around. I'm not saying there's no racism that exists in Toronto. Obviously, there is. But I was just like, man, people are so much nicer here. You don't have to always kind of have your shoulders up and get ready for a battle. Um, so I kind of was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Then I went back for a reunion to my old high school. And um, there weren't a lot of people at this reunion.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey guys, where are I start naming some of my white friends there? I'm like, where's this person, this person, this person, this black person, etc., etc. I remember my buddy, one of my close friends, told me something that just like broke my heart. He was like, dude, high school was just a bubble. It was hiding us from the real world. Like once we graduated, like we weren't like this rainbow nation anymore. He's
Yeah.
like, once we graduated, we went all our separate ways. It was mainly based on like race. He's like, I just hang out with the black guys.
Yeah.
High school was this huge mix. Right? But he's like, now I just hang out with the black guys. Like, what about my buddy? Like, I was really close with this guy. I'd always have sleepovers. He'd stay over at my place. Like, his mom was always nice to me. I was like, what about this dude? He was like, man, he's like, I remember I was out at a bar once and I saw him. I was like, hey, Lloyd, what's up? And as he approached him, two guys came behind the student and were like, do you know this kafir, which is like saying nigger. And
Really?
um,
Yeah.
yeah. And he looked and he was like, no,
Are you serious? Well, this is you.
yeah, not me.
Oh,
This is
this
my
is
buddy
your
telling me the
buddy that's
story.
telling you the story.
Yes.
Holy
Right?
shit. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's rough.
it was just like school hid like through in the school it was like a vacuum of like
Yeah.
what's really going on. They're telling us things are getting better. He's like, things are still the same. The only difference there is, I guess, because there's a growing middle class, the ruling political party is black. You don't feel as isolated. Don't get me wrong. I think majority of the wealth is still owned by white people, but there is a growing, very strong growing middle class.
Hmm.
So, um, they're not the minority. So a few differences, but it's a weird place to grow up in.
Wow. Um.
Beautiful, fun, but weird.
Yeah. 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 And sorry, this was the private. This friend that you mentioned, this private school. This is your friend from here,
Friend from South Africa as
South
well.
Africa. Oh, so he moved here too.
I went back. Oh no, he
Oh, the
didn't. I
reunion was
went back
back
for a
there. I
reunion.
see. And he just said he
Yes.
didn't know you. Oh my god. Or he didn't know your friend. Okay.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
because there weren't a lot of people there at this reunion,
Yeah.
and the reason being, people just didn't want to hang out with like they're like, nah, there's this racial split, so people don't want to show up.
Wow. Wow.
We were all close in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we had like a tight knit group, tight knit grade. That like once, everybody was like, once you go out into the real world, boom, world shows you who you really are.
So we got a couple of kind of questions or statements in the comments that I just want to call out. Um, so look, so Buddy Erock, he says, I feel like some assets are heading towards the wrong way. Like the NFL mentioned giving teams with minority coaches better draft picks and things like that and affirmative action. I feel like providing a reward system for diversity, which will leave it feeling unnatural or forced. And I think that might be harmful. I think over time it'll continue to lower and improve, though, therefore, not needing the reward systems. And a better way for more representation in colleges, I think, is better utilized by making more scholarships for minority groups. And I think that's a healthier way because it's competitive. And some stories I've heard where an African American woman felt she wasn't sure if she earned her place in school or if affirmative action allowed her, and scholarship would avoid the feeling of it being unearned. So a lot to take in there. I didn't even know about the NFL thing. He said that he doesn't think it actually went through, but it was proposed. Um, and that's interesting. That's
Yeah,
interesting. I don't even know how to comment on that. I can
it's a hard one.
yeah.
It's a hard one because he's right on one front in the sense that um, someone knows when they're getting this just out of being a token.
Mm,
And
mm.
you'll know, you'll know. Oh, this is just because I'm black.
Like a handout to
Right?
check off a box or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How, however, I do agree. Yes, a scholarship system would be good, but a scholarship system again only works when if everyone has access to schools, everyone
Mm,
has access to these same institutions in the same way, right?
mm-hmm.
So, there's an interesting book I read called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Heard about it.
he was one of the parts of it that stick out that's really interesting. Um, because he was talking about how young kids growing up in a wealthier, more secure childhood come that there is a correlation with them becoming more successful, right? Because one of the big things that he tied it to was because mom can take you here, mom can take you there, or dad can do this, or you have access, you have the ability to basically do extracurricular things, right? Imagine if you are in a situation where you don't have the luxury of being like, you know what, I want to go and play basketball, I want to go and play football, right? So some families aren't in the even in the situation or in the um, that luxury of
To
being like,
receive
hey
that.
son, go some extracurricular activities. One of them being football because we know you're good at it. But it might be like, no, like don't have that. You've got to look after your little brother, or you got to, we're busy working, or whatever the situation is,
Hmm.
right? When you're in a position of privilege, like you take so much for granted. I
Yeah.
like in the sense that think about it, like when you were a kid, you could go do a lot of extracurricular things. You didn't have to worry about so much outside of that. You could be the best kid you wanted to be.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you don't have that,
Yeah. It's kind of like you're
I mean,
born into this system where it's tough, right? Um.
exactly,
uh,
exactly. From day one, it's hard.
so
So
real
I
quick.
agree with him, but he's like one step early.
Mm,
It's got to be like, yes, you can find a fault with that, but the fault, what you have to understand is that fault is then like at the beginning of society. Why are they in this position?
um. Yeah. Like. Give me one sec. So it's just there's a lot of activity in the chat right now. Viper's asking and again, Joseph. Thank you for the host, buddy. I appreciate you. And Cooking Cat, Cookie Cat. Thank you for dropping by. You're saying that just wanted to stop by because he never says hi. Rhyme intended. But yeah, this racism shit is insane. Should have been abolished decades ago. Yeah, like it's messed up that like we're 2020 and it's in some parts it's blatant. Like you'll see like a buddy of mine just posted something. He was on the news, I think. He lives in Ajax. His friend is Filipino and his wife is black. And so they moved into this neighborhood and things were fine. Then eventually one of the neighbors started saying shit. You know what I mean? Once the coronavirus hit and all that, so she started
Mm,
calling him Chinese and saying that I hope all Chinese die because of coronavirus and stuff. And it was just like,
right.
are you serious right now? Like come on, like it's I don't even know where to begin with that, but like
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's.
ridiculous, right? Like that anyone would
I
think that
think
way.
it's
Like
yeah. But a lot of it stems from
upbringing.
um bringing or environment. So
Hmm.
like, if you don't have diverse friends, how do you get diverse thinking? Just like a company, you know, a company statistically does better when it is more diverse. There's so many different ways you're thinking of something versus the one group think you would have if everyone is the same.
Mm.
And your different life experiences have made you solve problems in ways that they haven't had to think about. It like that is such a big thing where it's just your environment around you
Hmm.
needs to it's important to have a diverse environment, otherwise you will just you basically, like a rabbit hole in YouTube.
Hmm.
You have a rabbit hole in real life.
You're only exposed to a limited amount of videos, like when you're talking about like the SEO and stuff like that, and like when you're clicking,
Yeah,
you're getting similar videos. Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
right.
Um,
So if your friends it's like your friends are all the same, you're gonna think the same. Everything is gonna be the same, even if you initially didn't. Peer pressure is gonna hit you so hard. You're not like, oh yeah, I hold different views. No, over time, point.
Um, okay, so Viper, your questions after or your comments after the next one. CDO, he mentioned that there's like, and this is a huge one too, right? People think because Canada's so diverse and you don't really hear about the stuff that happens here. There's like underlying racism that's etched into our society that I don't think is I don't know if I was gonna use celebrated, but I mean exposed. That's the word I'm looking for. Like it's not exposed, right? So it is a thing here, and I'm sure you've experienced it. So let's get into because you talked about stuff in South Africa when you went back to the reunion. It's like wow, you were in a vacuum. What about in Canada? Like, did you think that when you moved to Canada, I mean, you were 16, it probably wasn't like on the forefront on your mind, or maybe it was. You tell me. Did you think that it was going to be different because you're like, oh, I'm going to Canada, which is celebrated as a race culturally? Oh, you already knew straight up. Oh, it's going to be like fucked. Part of it, the
No,
language.
you don't, because South Africa does such a good job of brainwashing you.
Okay.
You're brainwashed to like lose this intrinsic confidence,
Uh huh.
right? So you come here and you're like, whoa, it doesn't have to be this way. Oh, wow, like, oh my god, you don't have to um like the racism is not always in my face. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'll give you a great example after this of some of the racism I've experienced here.
Yeah.
Like the atmosphere is nowhere near the same. I was like, wow, white people are being nice to me. They're strangers and they're talking to me. What?
What? It's
I
that
kid
bad
you, I
back
shit
there.
you not. Oh, if someone's coming to talk to you, number
You're
one,
in
if anyone
trouble.
comes to talk to you, like, why are you coming to talk to me? White person coming to talk to you a lot, it's like in an aggressive tone, oh, there is some sort of backlash happening.
Okay. So
You
in that
are,
sense, it was a good thing. Like you're like, oh, people are more
yes, it was,
accepting.
oh man, it was amazing.
Okay.
Like, I used to, if you talk to my sister or anyone that knew me when I was young, I used to get into a lot of fights. I was an angry kid.
Why?
Um, because I think like it's kind of the culmination. You're getting this weird subtle abuse at school, right? Where you're different, but you don't really know what this is all about. Have these feelings, but you can't really talk at them at home. Like you're just this pent up ball of frustration,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I think that was a big thing. Then yeah, when I moved here, and just the aggression, just in South Africa again, the testosterone is in the air. It's like I have to prove my manhood at all times. I can't like back down.
So you took
No
that with
point
you
do you back
here,
down.
and it's like,
That with me here.
I see.
It just it's like you just can't, So I'll
Okay.
give you a good example. If I cut someone off, I'm like, oh, I'm waiting for him to say something. I'm ready
So
for him to
you can
say something. And
retaliate.
then they don't, or they just like wave their hands up or something. You're like, oh right. Or someone says, excuse me, sir, like, can I help you with anything? You're like, what? We're supposed to not have a friendly interaction right now.
So you were
Right?
conditioned to have that sort of standoffish
Yeah, fight.
approach.
It's like you're constantly in a fighting stance.
uh
Like not physically, but emotionally.
Your
You are in a
energy's that,
fighting
yeah.
stance. Everything. You're waiting for it.
Okay.
Every little thing you did, I was looking to see the racist angle.
Oh, holy
It's
shit.
there.
Yeah, okay, okay.
It's
So
there,
now what about
right?
okay, so people are nice to you and you're like, okay, this is kind of weird. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
Or is it too good to be true? Whatever. Then as you started growing up, and I know you've shared some stories, what are some of the underlying things that you've noticed now that you're a man, right? That's lived
Huh?
more than half your life in Canada, right? What are some of the things, what are some of the issues that you noticed in Canada overall?
Um, I think Canada lies to itself.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, we are having been traveled around. Like this is a great place, especially when it comes to racism. If you have, if you're a black person, if you have a mixed family, like this is a great place to be when you compare it to pretty much most places around the world.
Mhm.
If as a black person, you get more, don't have to deal with. I wouldn't say all the hardships, but there's a lot of hardships. Like if you grew up in Europe, again, the racism is boom in your face. You're getting hit straight away.
Mhm.
But again, don't get me wrong, because this is my experience. I'm sure there are people here that will tell you like this kid is doesn't know what he's talking about. It's hard from the beginning here. Again, from my experience, just talking to people that have moved, um, it's a lot. It's a good place to be, but yeah, some of the subtle things are um, one example that always will always stick in my mind is it's happened a couple times, but the first time it especially happened, basically, we when I lived here with my parents, when they were still in Toronto.
Oh, I think I just lost you. Godfrey, you there? We just lost Godfrey. Guys, I'm taking note of your questions here. I was even thinking using the chat, the Smash Bros like join thing, so that we can give you some time that way. For now, let's just drop them in the comments, and then I will bring them up. I want to give Godfrey the kind of the mic for the most of the thing, right? I don't want to cut him off. I do want to respect your questions, but you know, this is this is kind of catered around his experience and stuff like that to give him an opportunity to voice himself using our community. So
I'd prefer their question.
sorry, yo, it's a little quiet now.
Okay, give me 1 second.
A little bit better. It's getting a little bit better.
You
Yeah, it's good now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was saying
You prefer?
it's better if we focus on the questions,
Sure,
and
sure.
I'll go through this question, but I think like it's I don't really want to talk just about myself. But anyways,
Okay.
um
Fair.
yeah, so one incident that really stuck out in my head was I just started working after graduating from university here.
Yeah.
Just started working. I was living with my parents. They lived in a nice neighborhood, and there was a nice metro that I could go to just down the road.
Yeah.
And this is after work. I was in a suit. It's happened twice. I was in a suit,
Yeah.
go to the store, and someone still came to me and asked me, "Where are the tomatoes?" or "Where is this?" And I'm like, "I don't work here." Like, and it's like it's happened a couple of times, and when it happens, it's so shocking. Like, you never say the right thing because you're so shocked. You're so taken aback. You're like,
Are you
really?
serious?
Like, oh yeah.
Like I know,
And this
no,
is that's the
that's the reaction. I know this story because you've told me.
yeah
But it just for the
yeah
viewers, just for context, he's in a Metro, which is a kind of medium high end grocery store, arguably with the best layout out of all the grocery stores that I've been to. I just like Metro. His area, he was in there with a suit, for whatever reason, just picking up some groceries, and some people came up to him. Were they like were they Caucasian? Were they just random people? You
oh
don't
yeah.
even
It was
remember? Yeah.
just a white lady who was like, "Excuse me, do you know where the whatever is the tomatoes are?"
Assuming that he worked there. Have you ever seen anyone at a grocery store in a suit working there?
It wasn't even an all black suit because I don't wear all black suits.
Man, it's a
So
grocery
like, think
store.
about that.
It's a grocery store. Who wears a suit if they're working at a grocery store?
True.
Like, that's just. I've never seen that in my life. Like, not even the manager
Yeah.
wears a suit. So she assumed, based on I what else are we supposed to go off of other than the color of your skin?
Oh, it is what it is.
It is what it is, right? It's kind of messed up. Um,
Like,
Jesus, like
yeah.
that just
Why else? Why else am I
why
like
else?
Willy Wonka just running through Metro, being like, "Oh yeah, let me take you to the candy section." Like,
Yeah,
there's no other reason.
there's no other reason, right? And I'm just
Yeah.
I'm challenging it based on other people, what they would think. You know what I mean? Playing devil's advocate, right? So I'm gonna do that. So I don't want you to think anything of it. Um, so look, Andrew was saying, okay, so racism in Canada, students complaining about Trinity College, which is a U of T. He was saying that the
Yeah.
cafeteria staff. I didn't know this, by the way, until I read this. Like, this is fucked. So the cafeteria staff didn't believe the black students went to that college and denied them entry to the cafeteria.
I can believe that, and they probably were like, "You should go to New College." And it goes back to exactly what I was telling you about, where like Trinity College is like this posh college drenched in history. Who are the people that have this history? White people. right? So like their descendants go there. Like Trinity College is kind of like Harvard in that sense. Nowhere near the standards,
It's
but you know what I
prestigious.
mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like for the most part, it's been like that. So all they're seeing are white people,
Holy shit. That's still
right?
messed up though,
And
man.
and so like it's so drenched in society and subtle things like that. You're like, yeah, you can't belong here.
You had a similar
That's
conversation about that too. Remember when you with your condo?
yeah, but
Yeah.
it'll happen everywhere,
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
right?
everywhere.
In the sense that like even at the metro again, I am one of the few there. So you're like, you surely can't be from here. You're lost, sir.
Yeah. Or you work here. That's the
Um,
only like that's yeah.
yeah,
I didn't know that was a
and I
thing
see it.
with Trinity.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't know either, but like I am
you're not
not
surprised.
surprised at one bit.
Um wow. So Viper was saying he's asking if he can join in the conversation. Viper 100%. Like you guys, I want to keep the call just between he and I, but any questions that any of you have, any comments, just drop it in there. I don't think like there's nothing that you can say that's going to completely like um tilt us or anything. Just don't be a racist. Like obviously, you know what I mean, but if you're coming at it with a constructive, hey, this what about this? I I'm open to it. You know what I mean? Cuz yeah, these are just conversations that we should be having. So Viper asked earlier, and again, there's we were talking about some other stuff. We're talking about being born into poor or rich families and the different opportunities you get. Yeah, that's what we were talking about, and how kind of the system. So, and we talked about this the other week, and it's like being a colored person. Not to make this about it's just it is what it is, right? Being a colored person in Western society, and this is actually in different cultures across the world, right? And I'll talk to you real quick about one example, but we have to work a little harder and set ourselves up for success even harder than Caucasian folks. And again, that's not an individual's fault if they get promoted or whatever. That's just the way it is. And I think it's getting better, especially in Canada. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Godfrey. Um,
Yeah, for sure. Um, Especially to people that are like, you don't have to work that hard, as much harder. A lot of people will say that, right? Or like you give an equal chance, or look at affirmative action, things like that. All I have to say is, like, this is the first generation of Black people that can be like can be confident in being Black from day one. The reason I say that is growing up, name me like a brown celebrity that you knew here, like someone that you could look to as a brown person, be like that brown dude, and like how many of them were there? Versus if you're white, you're seeing the road, you're seeing your people winning all the time.
mm,
If you're not white, this is like the first time where you're like, wow, we can win too.
mm-hmm,
So those little intrinsic things, like think about when you're growing up, every little bit that's bashing your confidence, these small little racist moments you're having, it's all questioning you. As a white person, these are questions that you don't ever have to go through. As someone, have you ever had to wonder like, whoa, as a white person, like, whoa, like I've never had to deal with what's going on in the news, like right now. I've never had to deal with that.
mm-hmm.
Right? I've never had to think of that. So just like the mind fuck that you get put into by these things is like already a barrier that you and I have to break through.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you come from wealthy parents or not, because if you don't come from wealthy parents, they immediately, or like if you don't come from wealth, they immediately like, you know what, you're immediately underestimated,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you are, it's you can't belong here. You're in the wrong place, sir. You guys are down there, right? So either way, you're having to battle these things as a kid,
Yeah. And you just
regardless of
like you assume like gravity. It's just this constant, right? And I think that's one of the things that you kind of challenged me for, or against. You're like, yo, dude, like, don't assume that it's a constant. Like, it starts with you, right? And how you approach the topic, how you kind of speak about it, and your stance on it, right? Like I used to think like, and the whole voting stuff too. I'm like, my vote doesn't count. One person's one vote. It's not gonna make a difference. Hey, dude, like, it doesn't matter who does what. I'm gonna get mine. But it's like that's so selfish of me, right? And I hadn't realized that until someone like you kind of brought that up. It was like, dude, like, sure, you're gonna get yours, but what about your future generations? What about other people that don't have the privileges that you have? By not taking advantage of the platform you have or the rights that you have, you're completely entrapping them, thereby further kind of reinforcing the system. Um, so.
Yeah, and I think um, you and I and kind of like us growing up, we've had this privilege of like having, yeah, there's some boneheaded people in power, but like we've never had to worry about it because the situation's never been this bad. Like for everyone, like think about Donald Trump is just like madness, you know. So I think even people that were like, yeah, you know what, the president voting doesn't really matter, are now like, oh wow, things are so bad.
Mhm.
Now I really need to get heard. So I think it's just kind of brought to light um, that fact.
That
But
leadership
yeah,
is
like
everything,
I
right?
think, yeah, I think leadership is huge. But also I think not just thinking about yourself, kind of like what you said. We all do at the end of the day. We all think of ourselves. I think like the truth is, how can you truly be comfortable? At least I couldn't, like, knowing that there's so much garbage and there's just so much sadness in the world.
Hmm.
Sure, I'm sad about it. Sometimes I feel defeated about it, but I'm like, you can do like your little piece here. Do what you can here.
Hmm.
No, I don't think you have to have a hero complex, but also I don't think we always have to kind of be down on it.
Yeah.
But I think it also there's an interview by this footballer called Kevin Prince Boateng, um, just to kind of go off of the you can do your piece and um, tie it into like this situation with with racism. Is one of the things that he said in his interview. He's like one of my favorites, just because he walked off a pitch when he was getting racist abuse. He's always been passionate about it. But one of the things he said was, he never used to do anything about it or speak about it because, like, when he was young, he was scared. He says he was a coward. I think that's like very hard on yourself when you're in an environment when you're like the minority. But ultimately he was scared. It's hard to speak up when like think you can make changes or do something when you feel so insignificant,
Hmm.
right? Or so like powerless. But I think like as people around you inform you, as you see them doing what they're doing, you're like, you know what? I should vote too. I have this power. It's like you empower yourself by seeing other people around you being empowered, right? But like sometimes it's hard. Sometimes just like, what can I do?
Yeah. What team does he play for?
Ooh, he plays in Turkey right now.
Oh, cool.
Besiktas.
Wow.
But yeah, he's old now.
So another comment that we got was from Joseph, longtime follower. He lives in Belgium, right? He's mixed, right? I think he's like part Japanese, part African. I could be butchering
Well,
that, so I
oh,
apologize.
why part African? Why is he part Japanese but only part African?
Part Japanese, part African. Is
Like,
that what I said?
because Japan, yeah, Japan is a country. Africa is a continent.
He said African. I'm just reading what it says there. I don't know where. I don't
Oh,
know where. Yeah, I don't know where
yeah.
in Africa. He's like, I don't look black, but damn, even here in Belgium, I've been treated like shit because I'm African. So like,
Oh man,
fucked up.
Europe is crazy like that.
Yeah.
Um, I think Europe is also really bad. Um, I, in Europe, it's kind of I don't know if it's different, but yeah, it's like there you're the proper minority, right? And so like you're really I can imagine why I can imagine that it's not so subtle
Not
about it
easy.
there either.
Um, Viper's saying that America itself is a diverse country than any other place. And that's what makes it special. Um, I think I don't know. I don't know. I think that there's two different schools of thought with that. Um, I do think that America's population is huge. Um, I don't know. I don't know the numbers behind that, so I can't really.
He's right.
Yeah, I don't
From a
know. Yeah,
diversity standpoint, he's right.
yeah.
The thing I will always say, and it's what we were talking about in our group, America is diverse. Don't get me wrong. People are constantly being used, right? It's not everyone, just because they're diverse, it's not like all tides are rising together,
Uh huh.
right? There is clearly one group that is winning more than others,
Hmm.
right? So sure, you can be diverse, but like that's a lie being like that's special. Like if you're poor in America, like we've always said, if you in America, it's great if you have money, right? If you're poor in America, man, like it's a grind,
Um.
right? It's not like think about the healthcare. Think about healthcare just to start with, right? You break your arm, it doesn't matter who you are here. You break your arm, you know you can go to a hospital.
Yeah, you're covered. Yeah. Wait, but in the U.S., I don't know how that works in the U.S. I know you have to pay for it, but like, what is there segregation based
They
on?
have different. No, no. There are different. I don't know the specific plans or like how it works, but I know there's a form of public healthcare. There's also private healthcare. It's like similar in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's private healthcare. Everything is done right there. Boom. You break your shoulder, you're in there. Like, things are smooth, right? Because that is where the money's going. But also, I read a stat that if you stay in the ICU in America for like 3 days, it costs you something like $100,000.
Jesus.
$200,000, and if you have insurance, it's $100,000. Think about people right now going through Corona.
Yeah.
They've been on the ventilator. When they leave,
Their
like
life is screwed.
I would love. I might be wrong, but this is something that I've heard a couple times. But yeah, it's like think about that. Sure, they're fixed, but now you got to pay. It
Hmm.
doesn't fix you for free.
Jeez, and you're in debt for the rest of your life for some of those people, and just
Exactly.
cripples you.
Exactly. Think about if you're not making a lot of money and now you got to pay that back. If you go to jail to get a bond or like to get released again, money. If you don't have that, like these things are just like designed. Like if you have the money, things are great. Like America's like this social experiment where you're like, let's take capitalism and ramp it right up,
Yeah.
take
That's
it to the max.
yeah, yeah. Um, so Viper mentions I see what you mean about that the communities they're born into, which is why they're born. I don't really understand that. Like, if you're born poor, why is your community poor? The mayors, governors. If you're born into poverty, and yes, you work hard and see your record, I feel like they see you worked hard to get what you want and how you determined you were. I don't fully
I think
understand it.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Viper, but I think what you're saying is like if you work hard, you will be
Persevere.
recognized.
And
You will be recognized.
that's
They
how
will
I used to
recognize that work.
that's how I used to think, but go ahead, yeah.
That's not completely wrong. Again, if I'm in a position of privilege, it means I only have to work 50% to get to like what's your probably 300%. You have to break so many barriers. You have to be exceptional in the school where like teacher might not have the resources to attend to each student individually. If you're a student that needs that, well, bad. I wish you could go to private school, right? Like that's
Hmm.
one issue right there, right? So yes, if you work hard, that's not like a formula. That's not like a formula. If you work hard, this will happen, right? Because then you're making the assumption that everyone poor is there because they didn't work hard, right? And that's like about some of these people like single parents who have to work multiple jobs. I work one job and have to look after myself and it's hard. I
Hmm.
couldn't imagine working like multiple jobs and having to look after other humans
Kids, yeah.
that are constantly pissing you off, right?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
You hear the stories. You hear the stories of the people, in the like the food, call
Industry?
them, yeah, but not in the food industry. The butcher, before it goes to the butcher. Fuck,
Like
remember the
I
name.
know which not
Whatever that name
farming,
is.
the slaughterhouses and stuff. I know
That's the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
slaughterhouses, right?
yeah.
If you see the
Food
way that
processing
they
maybe.
working like nonstop. Like there was a story I was listening to. This she was an immigrant from, let's say, Ethiopia, somewhere basically, um like Northeast Africa, right?
Yeah.
She was working like double shifts, basically pay her be able to afford a place that's bigger than where she's living in now.
Okay.
This little box she was living in. Corona hits and she has to take time off. I
Oh.
think this person is like not where they are because they're not working hard. Like these are the tough circumstances that they came from. For her to, she explained the story of her even getting to America. She was in a refugee camp, right? She was one of the lucky few that were able to go to America. What about the unlucky ones? What about the poor ones here? It's not that they're not working hard. I think that's really unfair.
Yeah, I'm always like, and again, I'll keep going back to this. You guys know this, and all my close friends. I'm just like, I don't care what's going on. I'm gonna work hard, but it's important to note that, like he's saying, like not everyone has the platform. Like sometimes you kind of need a bridge, like or steps. You know what I mean, to climb up, and just that definition of working hard is I'm climbing the steps quicker than everyone else. But some people don't even have the steps. They have to fucking climb with their bare hands. And it doesn't matter how hard they work. And again, I'm talking about me. Like, I'm talking about me, a person of color. I still think I had those steps and I took advantage of that and I worked my face off. I still try to, right? But there's other people, it doesn't matter how hard they work because they're got bloody knuckles from climbing, and if they put even 200% of the effort that I put in, they're not going to get to 50% of where I'm at. So I think does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Let's say you couldn't afford an education.
Yeah.
Right? You'll never like there's certain jobs you never do regardless of, or like you're gonna have to start from like -20. This person's just like, oh, you know what? I can go to university. I can do this. I can study. You know what? I'm done university. I'm done high school. I'm gonna go for a gap year, or I can chill at home for a
Yeah.
bit and things like that. Like
It's tough.
I think that's just yeah,
So
it's not fair.
here's a good question that Iraq has. How do you feel Donald Trump made things worse? Uh, and
um,
Godfrey.
Look, I don't think he made things worse. I think he made things like right. He this shit barbecue we're having, he brewed it up perfectly. Like this was his doing, right? I think he made things worse by just encouraging this rhetoric. Like he doesn't let me think of a specific example instead of just giving generalizations. Um
Here's one example
so the
they came. Oh, you have one right now?
no, go ahead.
So they were saying that bringing out the National Guard during the raids and the protests. They're saying that the
Oh,
bringing out the
dude.
National Guard was supported more than not supported. Um, and
Oh,
and there's
wow.
two schools of thought here. One school says it feel like it was necessary due to the fact that rioters would blend into the protesters. The other thing is, well, I don't. Yeah, the other side is so one side is safety, the other side is kind of to suppress the what was going on, the messaging and all that kind of stuff. But that I guess that's an
Yeah,
example, right?
for sure, for sure. And it's like think of the irony of it. Right now, people, amongst other things, are protesting the brutality that police are showing. It's like if you gave someone a test, right? And you're like, here are the notes. Here's what you shouldn't do in this test. Here are the cheats to win this to basically ace this test. It's like they took it and they did everything opposite. This is about police. Like a big part of this is police brutality. If they done, it's been more brutal, brutalizing protesters. The way the U.S. talks about this, like the irony is when this was happening in China, when these protests happen all around the world, they're like, how dare they stifle the protesters? When the Arab Spring was happening, how dare they try and stifle the leaders try and stifle this freedom? Now that it's America, it's like, oh, we are just looking after safety.
Wow.
It's like that's an irony when you think of when leaders did the exact same things in other countries. It's how dare they try and stifle people from talking their truths. Now they're like, oh no, safety. We're worried.
Wow. Um, so CDO's saying that it's hard for people to say the specific country because it's not mainstream. For Guyana, I usually have to say the north part of the Caribbean, and not people know it. Oh, so when you say where you're from, it's like, oh, it's the north. The people are like, what's Guyana? He has to say the northern part of the Caribbean. Even when I was growing up, when I was saying, when people are like, where are you from? Like Sri Lanka, they had no idea what it was. They had no idea. And again,
Nice.
you can't blame them. I get that. You know what I mean? It's not just like predominant. Now, when I say Sri Lanka, they're like, oh my God, yeah. Like, because Sri Lanka's like, unfortunately, become this like destination because foreign investors, and I don't know, I think a lot of the foreign investors are actually from China. They put in money to build up these hotels and resorts and make it kind of appealing to the Western culture. And so I was talking to my cousin last time I went, and he goes, "It looks all great." Because I'm looking around, and like me and my sister were like, "Yo, we come here every like 4 or 5 years. Why are there so many white people now? Like it's insane." And we looked it up, and it was like the top like it was like top 20 places to visit in like
Yeah.
2016, maybe even less than top 20. It might have been top 10 or top 5. I don't know, it was crazy. And so he was like he wasn't as like excited about it. My sister was kind of pissed. She's like, "No, no, no. Like this is ruining the culture of this place, right?" One, but I'm like, okay, devil's advocate, but doesn't that mean that there's more money coming into the economy? And my cousin actually was like, you'd think that, but the issue is that actually the people that are reaping the benefits are the folks that the foreign investors. So the money's not actually staying within the economy.
100%.
So it's like a trap that's gonna pop. You know what I mean?
100%. This is the game. This is the game the West has always played. Um, it's also like now as China's money rises, it's just if you don't have the power to say no, you're just another pawn. I think to kind of comment on what you were saying about um people knowing Sri Lanka, I think yes, part of it is the destination. Also, I think a big part of it, the increase in diversity, like a city like Toronto is huge.
Yeah.
Right? So just by that diversity, remember what I was telling you about, like you're exposed to different people, different cultures. Now you're more interested, you know what I mean? You're being exposed to things that you weren't before. So a lot of people now, not like Sri Lanka is, oh, where is it? It's, oh, like I know because I'm exposed to a lot more
Mm,
diversity around me. I
that's
know
true.
from people, oh, I know Dave. Dave is from Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I know this person. If you just know Bob, Larry, and just every just like the same people, all you know is like and it's like again,
It's a
you're in
limited.
a rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
in real life.
Yeah, and you're right. And even like as we're exposed to different people, like Nicki Minaj is part Sri Lankan, right? And people are like, Sri Lanka, what's that? And look it up, right? And she even drops in one of her
Mhm.
verses, right? Um, Canada question. Iraq asks, how are the wait times for hospital? The wait times suck, but it depends on the severity of your situation. Because obviously, it's a free with the pub. Okay, so we learned this in economics. Anytime that the government gets involved in something, like a process or something, it becomes socially efficient because it's available to everyone. You know what I mean? And people are able to reap the rewards. It becomes economically inefficient. And what do I mean by that? So, so the wait times are longer because it's available to me whenever I want. I am now more inclined to go when I don't actually need to. So that floods the system a little bit. So when I fractured my wrist, I was actually in the ICU, or not the ICU, sorry, the emergency room, the ER, waiting for 8 hours. I remember because it was a work day. I got there at 7:30 and I left at 4 or 5 o'clock or something like that, and I went back to work. And there were people coming in, and again, if my hand hurt, then I was a little frustrated. But seeing people come in that were getting stabbed and shot, I'm like, yeah, they they need this a little bit more than I do. So it depends on the situation. There are longer wait times, but there are improvements to the healthcare system. There's a really good one, Markham Stouffville Hospital, that CDO actually put me onto, where on Google it shows you the average wait time. And so 2 years ago, I dropped a can on my toe. Like, it was a big can, right? And yeah, he's laughing because he knows about it. And it fell, like, the corner fell on my toe and it killed. And that night I couldn't even sleep. So it was during winter vacation, so it was fine. I went in and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm telling you right now, your toenail is gonna fall off, but you're fine. Don't worry about it. Just put polysporin or whatever." And I was in there for less than an hour, so it was great. So they are improving it, but I don't know, Gord, if you want to like
Yeah.
add to that or anything.
So in South Africa is a similar system to States. We have private hospitals. I've dislocated my shoulder many times, and I've had to go to hospital for both. I've had to wait a long time here in Canada. Every time I've gone, I have never complained about the wait time. Even though in South Africa, I go boom straight into emergency, they fix me, I'm good to go. I haven't complained here because I know, like at any point, if I hurt myself, I don't have to think about the cost.
Mm-hmm.
No point. Right? I have to think about, man, is it really worth me going to the hospital? Like, think about like the stress. I don't even know what the stress would do to me if like I'm sick and I'm worried, but I'm like,
I
I
don't know if I
don't
can
know
afford
if
it.
it is worth the money it is going to make up for this. Right? So yes, there's a cost, but it's a cost I'll happily pay.
Yeah,
And especially having experienced both, don't get me wrong, the convenience is great, but the peace of mind is better.
I agree. Um, you're saying the ventilator survival rates are yikes, like 13% or something close.
Yeah.
Right. We're still figuring
Okay.
this stuff out, right? Viper added a comment here, pretty interesting. What about the city that funds the schools? So if your school is poor, does that mean that your governors, mayor are not really funding it? Um, yeah, I mean, I guess that goes into the system, right? Or like, I don't really, I can't comment on that other than that.
I think school funding, if I remember correctly, in the States is based on property tax. Like,
What?
so it's like, yeah,
What? So they get
that's
more
how that's
funding in wealthier
so like
neighborhoods?
think about the self-fulfilling, like
Prophecy.
you're just spinning. So if you live in a wealthy neighborhood, a lot of that property tax, boom, you're
No
getting a better
way.
school. If you live in a poor neighborhood, you have to wait for it to be gentrified. Unfortunately, at that point, guess what? They're telling you get the hell out of here because you don't belong in this neighborhood.
But yo,
It,
even in Canada, municipalities collect the education portion of property taxes for the school boards in their communities. Property tax revenues are considered to form part of the allocation, and the province provides additional funding up to the levels set by the funding formula. The fuck?
that's why, like, poor neighborhoods in poor.
So, because the state guarantees $6,000 per student per percent property tax, districts that tax at the same level will always have the same amount of money per student. In our model, districts can keep state funding above the minimum, but not local revenue. Like what a little bit went over. But Viper says, "Yeah, my mom is Hispanic. She raised me by herself when she was 15, 16. And she was
Wow.
determined to help us to be better in life and never stopped working to have food for us. You know, she wasn't even able to complete high school. And dude, like, I don't even know how she did that. That's insane.
Think about how exceptional she had to be.
Yeah,
She had so like again, you're not starting at the same level. You have to be so exceptional because think about how many aren't. Look at where they are. So like I think there are these subtle things that people don't think about that like
yeah.
potentially huge.
Shout out to your mom, bro. Hopefully you treated her nice for Mother's Day.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's insane. And like
Uh,
Viper, like think about like what. Go ahead, yeah.
I for sure know how she did it. She for sure put like she was fierce.
Yeah.
Put the fear. Like otherwise, Most moms I know that, especially if you have to raise kids on your own, you've got to
Yeah.
you've got to be fierce.
Yeah, it's tough. Um, 600 plus cops got sent to the ICU, and over a dozen cops died. I think the National Guard is warranted, says Iraq. That makes sense. As well as civilian
Yeah,
deaths.
but
Oh, go ahead.
I, I get it. That is that is terrible. But how many black people have died? Like you can't weigh them without looking at the other side,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? And let's not start in 2020. Let's start well before,
Hundreds of years ago.
right? Hundreds of years. Now you're taking this. Don't get me wrong. Every life is valuable. That argument saying, "Oh, but what about this side?" It's not about what about this side.
Let's look at the whole
There's no
picture.
look at the whole picture and look at like it's yeah. I think it's terrible that people are doing that. But I think like that's half of the picture when you're comparing. You take that away, it's not the same.
Hmm. And it's really important, everyone, to just focus on the gems. Like there's that one picture of um these uh um these black civilians, it looks like, protecting a lone Caucasian police officer who got separated from the rest, and they're protecting him so that other people don't like hurt him and stuff. And that's kind of like, that picture itself is just powerful. And I don't know if that's actually what happened, but like just the imagery or the symbolism there, that these guys understand that, hey, listen, like we understand that we've been wrong. Like, people, there are good people and there are bad people. We're choosing not to be a bad person or bad people.
It's not even good person bad. Like if your life has been shit all your life, you've seen your family being affected by this. Are you a bad person because you're pissed off?
No.
A bad person so it's not good person bad person, right? Like
Huh.
those pictures are powerful, yes. But like if they did otherwise, it's like, listen, man, they're pissed off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, but
Sure, you
can you
you
take
you're
someone else's
you're
life?
asking them. Yes, I'm not condoning that. I'm
Okay,
not saying
okay.
it's
I'm playing
okay.
devil's advocate. Yeah.
But what I mean when you're saying there's some good people and there's some bad people, it's like these people are pissed off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's
Now you're like, hey, look, don't be. I know you've been screwed over all your life. Just don't be a bad person.
it's okay. Okay. Okay, when you put it that way, it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, don't be a bad person. By the way, bam.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, okay. When you see, when you put it that way, it's like, fuck, it's you're onto something there. It's like, yeah, sorry for the hundreds of years of fuckery. Just, can you just not be a bad person right now? Cuz yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um
There's this really like powerful I don't know if I sent it to you. This video, this woman talking about like the different people in like this uprising. There's like the looters, there's the rioters, and there's the protesters. I'm not gonna do it justice, but she's like the protesters. Those people are like the peaceful ones who want change, right? You have the looters. Then you're thinking like these looters, like why in 2020 is this like the only way they can get
yeah,
that,
come on.
right?
Like,
Things are so bad. This is the only way you can get that,
yeah, that's fucked.
right? And then, the looters again pissed off. I'll share it with you after this. You can share with them because I haven't done it, not even like a twelfth of the justice that this video deserves. Like it's powerful.
Okay, wow. Um the Iraq, Sri Lanka is the little India teardrop. How do people not know that? Iraq, here's the thing, man. I respect that a lot. That you, I don't know if you Googled it or what. I'm gonna tease you a little bit there. I'm just joking. Iraq and I are cool like that. But look, like, I gotta be real with you. I don't know if I would know what Sri Lanka was if I wasn't from there. I don't know if I would. You know what I mean? I gotta call that out. So I respect that you know that. Viper says a black officer who was a captain got shot in the head by rioters. His name's David Dorn. No media outlet was talking about him. He was 77 or 75. And Iraq jumps in. He goes, yeah, he got shot helping out a buddy of his protect his store and was shot over a fucking.
It's terrible. That is sad. As this woman puts it, there's going to be casualties. It's sad. I am not downplaying it. I think, again, the whataboutism doesn't help anything. Like this cop, it's terrible, but like what's happening now
Yeah.
is like you can't what about, well, a cop got killed here. No, this is something that is like them, it's like 500 years of frustration,
Yeah.
500 years of pain.
Yeah.
There are going to be casualties, just like war. Right? Do we talk about the people that we are warring with? Do we talk about them, asking them, um, oh, oh, there was a kid that just kind of got shot in the crossfire, or that accidentally got blown up, or whatever it is? We don't.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the casualty of like the war that is happening right now.
And I think okay, so let me catch up. The comments have been coming in quickly. Um, Socioeconomic privilege. It's a new hospital in a rich area, far from downtown, and that's true. He's talking about the Marco Stouffville Hospital. It is. Holy shit, he's right. Not every hospital is like that. I'm talking about the hospital that where you can Google the average wait times, and it's actually friggin' accurate. He's like, that's a socioeconomic privilege. It's a new hospital in a rich area far from downtown. Viper saying, can't you just pop your shoulder back into place? It hurts a lot, but it's a quick 2 seconds. So actually, as someone who's able to pop my shoulders out on will, it is a cool party trick. But then in second year, third year university, mine started popping out on its own, and it is painful. So it was during soccer, and it fell the wrong way, and it popped out, and I kept trying to push it back in. Thing would not go in on its own. Luckily for me, there was someone there that told me, he goes, yo, just relax, lay your hand let your let your hand hang and see what it does, and it naturally popped back in. But for like a week, every step that I would take, it felt like my shoulder was coming in and out like this, right? And so I needed to do a lot of physio to strengthen that muscle, kind of like just to keep it in place. I think Gord's was a lot different. I think you needed surgery for yours or something, no?
Yeah. Yeah, you know where I got the surgery? Beautiful Canada. You know how much it costs?
Zero.
Thing.
Um, any rich person in the GTA can take an Uber to Markham to save them time because they have money to go. It's true. And Xavier's saying even having it pop back is something you should check to make sure it's properly back in place. Yeah, it's true. That shit, man. Like it, I was popping my shit like it was hot. You know what I mean? Like it was not fun. It hurt. What I ended up doing was other than physio was I started boxing actually and just doing like 100 jabs because then it was just strengthening my shoulder. Um, and then wearing a brace. Uh, Dave Dave could tell you what happened to him. His shoulder is fucked. Yeah. Thankfully, my shoulder has not popped out in years. So, what's up, Bryce? I think I can. To be honest, I think both can be done by listening to both sides and coming together. But I think focusing solely on one group or another just leads to more division. I agree with that. Um,
I get what he's saying. Again, we're not coming from equal footing, not coming from equal standing, right?
wow.
Like, it's not like we are here saying, "Hey, let's talk together." We're at such a disadvantaged position, and every time, like, let's talk, like, oh no, things are fine. Things are fine. Why are you complaining?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like, theory, want to write a textbook? Yes. The reality, like, can't just say, "Oh, you know what? Let's come together." Those hundreds of years that we screwed you over, the way we're still mining from Africa and taking all of her resources. Just chill, man. Let's just
Let's
just let's
talk
just
about.
chat.
Yeah, I see it.
And I would be like, listen, man, like, no, we're not, right. So that's in theory, but that's not the reality. That's not the situation.
And Bryce, I know you're coming from a good spot, but yeah, like that's easier said than done, and it also discounts everything that's happened, right? And I think again, I see where you're coming from because I'm like, okay, listen, what's done is done. Let's focus on the future. But it's like, no, we need to remember that. You know what I mean? And now is the time to start bringing that.
It's not even we need to remember that, right? It's you are constantly making us remember the lives we live are showing, like, the history all over. It's not like there are an equal amount of, you know, well-to-do black people with an equal amount of well-to-do white people with an equal amount of well-to-do brown people, Asian. That's not like that, right? So, like, unfortunately, it's not like, yeah, let's come together like we're equal. At first, you got to treat us like we're equal, right? You can say that now, but I guarantee you, like, majority of people that like are working at a company that are working at a company in some sort of senior level, ask them how many people of color they see, then be like, oh yeah, are we equal?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we were, I want to see people like me. I want to see people like Dave. I want to see people like everyone at all levels. That's not the case.
It's not even in Canada. That's not the case. Um,
That's yeah, no, like it's not.
not you know. Lil Monty, what's going on? The best example I've heard is racism is not getting worse; it's getting filmed. Oh,
100%.
oh, that's powerful, eh?
100%.
Holy shit! I believe Will Smith.
It's so true.
Uh,
There's truth. If a lot of those things, think of the violations a lot of those cops had, right? A lot of these things, if they happened and there was no video, if this dude already had 18 violations, what's another one?
yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly.
If there's no video, it didn't happen.
It didn't
Or it
happen.
didn't happen the way he, or the one that happened in Atlanta. Apparently, they picked up some of the gun shells afterwards, right? To manipulate the scene. So
No
if there's no
way,
video, it didn't happen.
dude. So
He's 100% right.
let me catch up with the comments, and I do want to talk about a very important video that I watched this past weekend, which was Dave Chappelle's 846. Like that was some real shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like okay, so Bryce saying looters are probably a product of the pandemic and greedy people, right? I think those opportunities, like just like Gary Vee says about the internet, people are like, the internet is, it's kind of toxic and it does this and this. He says his standpoint is that the internet itself is not toxic. It's just revealing who people are, right? Like those people would have found other ways to. And again, there's two different schools of thoughts on this, but yeah,
Uh, I think it's hard to group them. Right? You can't say I agree with him that there are some. There might be others. Like you said, it's a pandemic. They don't have money. They don't have the resources. This is the only chance they're getting to get some of this shit.
huh? Wow. Uh, Trekoyam, thank you for the host. I appreciate that. Um, They're a little okay. So Qatar the odd. Some are opportunities, others are targeting. Okay. Lil
100%.
Monty says there's some using actions to change the narrative and commit actions that are coming from the wrong place. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, right? Because here's the thing: what happens there is that unfortunately that deteriorates the overall messaging of what's trying to happen here. And I've even heard some rumors of like certain people, like cops, going and disguising themselves as protesters, or just evil people disguising themselves as protesters, and then starting to fuck shit up to make it look like the protesters are negative people or they're seeking violence, not just trying to
Right.
send a message.
I think that is very true. Um, I think it's also important to understand why this is happening, because it's like this line where you've got to remember what the focus is, because as you are looking at this, there are distractions everywhere trying to misguide you, trying to get you off route. But at the end of the day, the looting is bad, the violence is bad, all of it is bad. Like, it's not changing, it doesn't change the message at all.
Mm,
It doesn't change what the problem is. It doesn't matter what's going on. The problem is still there. These are just distractions, people trying to be like, yo, like, this is why it's actually bad. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Know what the problem is.
mm.
Don't know what the problem is.
Don't shift the focus. From
Exactly.
McAfee, Ceylon cinnamon. Thank you, Sri Lanka. And shout out to McAfee for that. But even Ceylon is a British named word for Sri Lanka. That's what they colonized Sri Lanka as. So fucked up, yeah.
It's the footprints everywhere.
Iraq. See, but I feel like everyone will feel like they've been screwed over in life. And comparing hundreds of years ago, I disagree with because my ancestors aren't me and your ancestors aren't you, so I don't vibe with that analogy ever. Okay, that's fair. Um,
So that's fair, but like I said, there is so much bullshit that I've had to deal with that he's never had to think about,
mhm,
just because of my skin,
mhm.
just because of that, right? So again, you can't say I'm not my ancestors. Unfortunately, I'm being judged based on skin. So like, can't you might not want to vibe with it or not, but the reality is, my lived experiences, the experiences that people are going through all over the world that are black, these are not like things where like just like, oh no, this is my ancestors' problems. Reason why I'm stuck in poverty is my own fault, not my ancestors' problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are, but for the majority, because again, why is the predominantly black people in poverty? What are you saying then?
So
Right?
super interesting. Just to touch on that, I actually found something. Snoop Dogg posted this, and it was on Instagram, and I sent it to Godfrey. You know the thing about the Jefferson or Washington and Jefferson. So he was like, "Do you recognize these folks? It's George Washington and Thomas Jefferson." Now ask yourself this: do you know any white people with the last names Washington or Jefferson? Don't think about it too long. You probably don't. And that's because slaves took the names of their masters, and these guys owned hundreds of slaves at the time of their deaths. So they didn't pass their names on to their kids, they passed them on to the people that they owned. That's why you have black coworkers, friends, neighbors, and family members with those last names. That is the foundation of our country. So if you don't think systemic racism is a problem in the US and you live in the US, then you don't know your own history. So I think that's kind of where it was kind of an eye opener for me because I used to think that way too. I'm like, hey, what's done is done. Let's focus on the future. And it's like, dude, but what about the remnants of the past shaping the future, right? So it's very important that we don't forget about that kind of stuff. Um,
I would be curious to know from his perspective because he's given a couple of um
Different sides.
um I get different points, but
Yeah.
why does he think then poverty is more for black people and people of color? Do you think makes it statistically that way? And if it's not systemic racism, what is it?
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about when people say that protesters are not with the rioters, when you could also argue and saying that good cops shouldn't be merged with bad cops? Um,
As Chris Rock said,
what?
some jobs just can't have bad apples. It's simple as that. You're carrying a gun.
Yeah.
Can I afford for you to fumble? Oh,
There.
that's a responsibility you bear.
Yeah.
Can't be like, oh, I'm a football player, but the pressure is so heavy now that I'm in the NFL. That's not fair. Oh, there's a job
That's
you
what you
signed
signed up
up for
for.
as a cop. Signed up for this job, don't fuck up
And
because your mistake is so expensive.
you know what? Just to like, and again, shout out to the cops out there because they're putting their life on the line. Gotta respect that because there are
100%.
people that are kind of being and Lil Wayne talks about it too. He goes, let's not just generalize and say all cops are bad, right? We got to look at the specifics. There are good cops out there that constantly put their lives on the line, and we don't want to mesh those together with these bad apples, unfortunately, right? And I like to be honest, this is kind of crazy, but I don't think humans can be police officers because there's so much at stake there. I genuinely think that
It's
we should need to
so
create a
true.
machine force and
But
or something like that, you
look,
know?
like the reason a machine isn't and a human is because a human's supposed to have empathy.
Mm,
Right? A human is supposed to read the feelings of what's going on. Like, what an indictment!
yeah. What does
Right?
indictment mean?
Like,
I don't know what that means.
it's like what a sad state of affairs. What a
Oh,
judgment on them.
yeah. Wow. Um, and to add David Dorn again, Trump made a tweet posting his respect, and I think a famous person said, "Don't use him to promote yourself." And I'm like, damn, what the fuck? He served for over 30 years as a cop. Let there be remembrance for him. it's what exactly what Gord said. It's like people will find reasons to bash anything. You know what I mean? To be honest, is that Trump Twitter account actually run by Trump? I feel like it's someone else.
100%. No,
Okay.
like yeah, you would think, but it's real.
um and I appreciate all your patience, guys, and we're just trying to catch up, and like obviously there's a lot of good things that we hit on here. I do want to catch up with the comments, but I also want to kind of talk about each thing and give each topic the respect and time that it deserves. I don't think we're doing it justice, but we're trying our best, you know. uh a Black Lives Matter protester was murdered in Tallahassee, and the person who did it allegedly was African American. CNN and more liberal news outlets won't even mention the suspect.
So
What?
what? Like again, doesn't matter. Like these are distractions from the point.
Oh.
Throw all these things in, I don't care. Point is these wrongs need to be righted. Like we need to be equal,
Mm-hmm.
right? Needs the world needs to be fairer. So throw in whatever stuff you want to put in. Like, that's not really what I'm here to talk about, to argue. I'm just telling you this is my lived experience. Unless you think I'm full of shit, from my lived experience, this is a problem. Unless you think hundreds of millions of people are full of shit, from their lived experiences, this is a problem. From your lived experience, seeing all the black people in poverty, seeing them struggling. I'm not saying others aren't, but more than others. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The other stuff, cool. Just put to the side for us. Like it's like it's sad stuff, but the focus, the point is that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The point is these wrongs.
Lil Monty, yeah, 100 jabs after my workout and training sessions boxing. I would go to the bag and I'd be like, I need to fix this problem. And I'd just sit there and jab 100 times just to make sure that I'm tight and like, you know what I mean? Haven't worked out in a while in boxing, but
Even on the bag.
what's that?
Every time I saw this guy, you were jabbing every
Oh
time.
yeah.
You were in your boxing
And
stance.
then remember, to stray off topic a little bit, what was it? When I was into boxing a lot, I would just like I would take the little stance, like Floyd Mayweather stance, when you go like this and use his shoulder to protect his jaw. And then Gord would be like, "Yo, what are you, the little guy from 300?" What was he again? The
No, Quasimodo, where he's like master.
He's like master, but no, it was also the guy from 300, the little guy that was like
Oh
messed up,
yeah,
and
I remember
betrays
his name.
he betrays Leonidas and them.
Yeah.
Okay, so CNN is trash. Just ignore them altogether. The Iraq saying this. I don't care about people disagreeing with me politically, but CNN is fake as fuck. Yeah, it's the news is it can be toxic, and like if you notice, I stopped watching the news. And again, this is a good and bad thing because one, Ford calls me out about this all the time. He goes, "Dude, you need to know what the hell's going on out there." And I used to think it doesn't affect me. Who cares, right? And obviously that was a very kind of tunnel vision mindset, which is can be a good thing, but I think it's a little ignorant. But yeah, you got to be careful about the information that's put out there because a lot of it is negative and it is targeted to make you to influence your way of thinking and stuff like that. But McAfee does a cool inquiry here. I'd be curious to hear if you agree that the solution to racism is practicing individualism.
But
What do you think?
um, well,
First off,
firstly,
what's
before I say no,
individualism?
yeah, I'm trying to. I don't want to be like no, and then
Yeah, so let me Google that.
individualism.
Again, this is not what we do for a living, guys.
Being so. Do you mean individualism as a like we're all
Looking out for ourselves?
just looking out for ourselves? Is that what you mean?
A social theory favoring freedom of action for individuals over collective or state control.
Um, no, because I think humans are just terrible for the most part. Like the analogy I always give is like lion when a herd is going by, right? A herd of zebra or gazelle, whatever you want to call him. Lion goes there, doesn't think about like other lion he doesn't like. He thinks I need to feed my
Myself.
family
Yeah.
and the people around me. Humans, we have like jealousy. We have all these feelings where I'm like, I don't like that person, so I'm not just gonna kill mine. I'm gonna screw over what he's going
You
for,
want to step on other
right?
people.
Like so many people do that. Like I, that would be a great concept in theory if everyone genuinely was like, you know what, I am interested in like doing good by myself and not being influenced by anyone around me. Because people aren't like that. Not like, oh yeah, let's just all be right. So
Wow.
be nice, but no.
And
So it'd be kind of sad.
yeah,
Helping people doesn't that like that sometimes selfishly bring you happiness?
helping people selfishly brings happiness to you. Yeah. You're right. There's something about helping other people that yourself like that kind of gives you a little bit of endorphins or some sort of a kick. Um, Viper says, "Oh, Donald Trump even made a video honoring George Floyd on Twitter, but Twitter took it down for no reason. I have the video. May I send the link? It's on my Instagram."
Sorry,
Um,
repeat that.
no, he's saying Donald Trump made a video honoring George Floyd on Twitter, but Twitter took it down for no reason. Um,
Again, like it doesn't matter. Like I don't care because it doesn't do anything to fix the problem. I was showing me that video, showing people that video, fixing any problem.
um, so for those of you who want to watch the video, I'll put it in the chat real quick. Let's see. Man, Twitch changed the overlay of like so many things. Here we go. This is the video for those of you who want to have a look at it.
Oh, can I just comment on
Go ahead.
I think Iraq when I asked Iraq about the why he thinks we're in this situation. So he was saying African Americans have a higher rate of single parenthood. Again, like why? Like what are you getting at? What are you actually trying to either say, or what do you think the message is? Right? Is it because like why do you think it is? Because it kind of sounds like you're saying African Americans make bad decisions. That's why they're in here, right? Like I'm curious to know why you think it's even the case that there's a lot of single parenthood.
Oh, so you're looking at the comments too. Okay, so you if you want to go from the bottom up, I'll go from the top.
Oh, that was just one that caught my eye.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, Bryce is saying, "What do you consider equal?"
Cool. Like I said, I want to go to a store and be asked about that. I don't want to have to when I go to a nice restaurant, I'm the only one, and I can see people are looking at me. Like, I don't want to have to hear about black people in the news getting shot by cops. I don't want to have to hear about racial profiling. Like these things are all unequal,
Equality in
right?
the
So
workforce
everywhere,
everywhere.
right?
Yeah.
So like
Even the dating websites,
it's
like
everything.
what was that? What was that show? Master of None. Aziz Ansari, he has a section in
Oh
the
yeah, it's a great show.
it man this show, this one episode, there's two episodes that I would recommend watching if you don't want to watch the whole show, right? One episode is about his parents, him and his best friend. He's brown, he's his best friend's Asian, and their parents' story coming into the US. That's huge. But then this specific one that's pertinent to this is he's going on a series of first dates, and he goes on one date, and one of them it's just very well edited, but one date he's out with an African American woman, and they're talking about real shit about dating as a colored person on these apps, and they're like, for whatever reason I match with people of my color more often, and there is, myself included, even in Canada, I have kind of like been conditioned through experiences to feel that I have a less of a shot dating a woman that is Caucasian than a Caucasian counterpart. And that's inequality right there. Do you know what I mean? Um
And remember, sorry to
Go
cut
ahead.
you
No,
off
no, I'm
there.
done, yeah.
Remember when I said at the beginning, like this generation of black people are the first that can see people like them winning. What you're talking about is exactly that. Like town needs to be made beautiful. Like you don't see it in the mainstream. What do you see? You see mainly white people. So you are conditioned to
Mhm.
be like that is the gold standard.
Yes. 100%.
You look like that is what. So like how again? How is that equal when like you see it everywhere? That just implies to everyone this is right. Right is right. Everyone else, you're a little inferior. I won't tell you to your face. You'll see it all around you.
And
Then you can put the puzzles together.
exactly. And again, this isn't saying, oh, like, you know, one color is worse than the other or anything like that. We're just talking about real shit. Like, this is like growing up, I've always been at a disadvantaged position. And again, like, I'm not saying I go out of my way, like, let's not talk about dating preferences here, Godfrey, and everyone else is gonna laugh or whatever. But I've always felt that I had an easier shot at dating women of color than women that weren't colored. Um, so yeah. So Iraq saying it's taken down frame one due to copyright issues, but YouTube didn't take it down. Viper posting case they are interested, so letting see a random link when they catch up. Terry Crews discussed this idea of the movement possibly causing the idea of black supremacy, and we should be fighting for true equality. He's being ridiculed for it. What are your thoughts on that?
Ah,
Wow, I didn't
that's
even know
a.
about that.
I know exactly what he's
That's a
talking
good
about.
fucking comment.
The reason
Question.
reason I gave out a sigh is because like I find it funny that people are scared about this and like don't even have black equality. So like, what do you talk? You know, like I think yes, what he said might have not been right. I don't know. Like maybe as a white person, you didn't take it well, and I can see why. But don't even have equality. So like it's just such a nothing. It's like that's just the way I see it. We don't have equality, so how can we even? We're 10-0 behind, and he's talking about being 10-0 up.
Mm.
Not even we're not even a 10-10. So
Mm-hmm. Um. So Bryce is saying the U.S. is 12% black. If companies were required to be 50% white, 50% black, we'd be at 60% unemployment. Is it injustice if senior management is only 12%, or just the way the odds work? Okay, I can see where you're coming from. I just think that the disparity is too much. It doesn't need to be 50-50, but the disparity is insane. Like, Ford's kind of going through that, or he has a friend that's going through that, rather, whereby, like, the company is addressing this situation. Actually, you can talk about it. You told me the story about your friend or whatever.
yeah, so he was saying, if I can remember the story straight. Um, Basically within his organization, there's no black leadership at all. Like there's no one in a director or anything higher that is black, right? And this is a company of over 1,000 people. So imagine through that, if you're he's basically saying if you're someone that's black, you see that, and even if you're talented, you're gonna be like, where do I see my path to success? I can't see anyone like me here. Where is my path to success here? Immediately off the bat, you are in this position where you're like, I can't see how I'm going to win. You are immediately telling that person, you've got to have the most self confidence to win here.
Mm-hmm.
The others just have to be average. You can just boop, 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 slowly go up.
Almost have to have like a hero complex. Like, I'm gonna be that outlier.
Yeah.
Um,
Like that's the thing. People always give these examples of these people of color that are winning. People are exceptions.
mhm.
They've had to be exceptional.
Mhm.
Right?
Um, so young Link saying there were good cops when I was in Cedar Bay. That's a high school in Scarborough. That they went out of their way to befriend students and know their troubles. And yeah, man, like we said earlier, there's good cops and bad cops.
Good
Actually,
cops everywhere.
you
Yeah.
guys want to hear a funny story? CDO, if you're still in the chat, again. I respect police officers. I've had a fair share of encounters with them, good, bad, whatever, growing up. So here's a good one. Okay, I am on my way to a job interview, and Gord, you were at this same job interview, and I missed it because I got into a car accident. Do you remember that? So, like, literally, so I'm driving on the highway. This guy's laughing because he's like, "Oh, Dave's late again," and my followers know that I'm a little late. Actually, I was pretty on time for this stream at 7, right? I was okay for it. Um, so then I'm driving on the highway. I miss my exit, so I get off and I have to come back. Right? I'm still on time for the interview. So there's traffic on the way on this other opposite end of the highway, and if you think about it, there's 4 lanes, and the first lane is just bumper to bumper. The other one's going a little quicker, and the other two are going fine. So I'm in the third lane and I'm going, right? Sorry, I'm in the second lane and I'm going, right? I'm going maybe 40 kilometers per hour. This woman cuts out into my lane without even looking at her blind spot, okay? And so my options were two here. One, I'm gonna hit her from the side, which again isn't my fault, because when the cops come in, they're like, oh, like you came out at the wrong time, you didn't check your blind spot. But my instinct was like, I gotta go to a job interview, I can't deal with this. So I swerved into the lane next to me, didn't even look in my blind spot. A pickup truck, like a tow truck, comes and smashes the side of my car. I was fine. Airbags didn't even go off. That's how slow I was going, okay? And so this woman drives up. The story's not about the woman. She goes like this, says sorry, and drives off. And like everything's like, oh my god, things are going so quickly right now. What the hell is going on? I couldn't get her license plate. It was yeah, whatever, right? So then the tow truck guy comes out. It's my dad's 1998 Honda Accord, and completely fucked.
Classic.
And the tow truck guy comes and goes, man, my truck. And I'm like, dude, your truck has barely a scratch on it. Like, get the hell out of here. So he calls the OPP. OPP comes in. He comes, talks to the tow truck driver, then comes to me and he goes, yo, listen, like, where were you going? I told him what happened, everything. And he's just like, yo, listen, so shit happens. I'm not going to give you a ticket, right? But I'm telling you right now that your car is going to be a write-off because the frame's compromised. This guy could have given me a ticket, but he didn't, okay? Super nice guy, whatever. So another cop, okay? I'm with my cousins. This is years later. I'm driving out of one of our soccer games, actually. Dude, I need to stop hanging out with you because both of these stories revolve around you. It was one of our soccer games with Lauren and them. I'm just joking. And we'll pull out of the parking lot. We're
Oh,
driving.
it was me.
Huh? It was yeah, it's your fault.
Me?
You cursed me, bro. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So then we're pulling out of the game. I think we lost in penalties, and a cop pulls up behind me, and my cousin's in the car with me. And I'm driving kind of slow. I'm like, I don't know why this guy's following me. He's following me for a couple minutes. Pulls his lights on, and then I go, okay, like, what's up? And he goes, super nice. Hey man, how's it going? Oh, you guys just came from soccer. How'd you do? Oh, we lost, whatever. And he goes, okay, yeah. The reason I pulled you over is because your license plate's actually like faded. So yeah, you're gonna have to get that replaced. I'm like, oh, dude, I didn't even know for sure. Like, let me know. Like, how quickly can I get it replaced? He goes, oh, it's nothing. You just go into the our version of the DMV. They'll get you a new one right away. I'm like, all right, perfect. Then he's like, yeah, let me just get your license or whatever. We'll see what's up, and you'll be on your way. I'm like, cool. Motherfucker comes back with a ticket, and I go, yo. Well, like, I thought we were fine. I thought you were just giving me a warning. And he goes, no, sorry, man. I already printed the ticket. Tough shit. I was like, okay, fuck you, okay? Um,
That guy is a robot. The other guy was a human.
okay. So, now one last story. So, this one's a little interesting. So, cannabis is now legal in Canada, so I can share this story. Back when it wasn't legal, we used to like, smoke and then go to the cottage or whatever, and CDO is gonna get a little triggered by this story. And what ended up happening was, and this is not a race thing. None of these stories have anything to do with race. I'm just kind of bringing it out, just letting you know about how the variability of police officers here, right? Of their judgment calls. So it's Boxing Day in 2016, and we're driving to the cottage. We go to this neighborhood. We're like, hey, let's smoke a little bit, and we'll drive up. It's fine. We're responsible. We can drive. You know what I mean? I had my
What
car.
neighborhood was it?
What part of me? It was
Neighborhood was it?
Ajax. So we're in behind in this little parking lot or whatever, and we're hanging out. And then what ended up happening was these police officer, this gentleman comes, and he's like, he sees us, and we're like, okay, you know what? They're looking at us or whatever. Let's walk out into the forest a little bit. Then he comes and he goes, hey, fellas, the police are here. They want to talk to you. And we're like, wait, what? And what ended up happening was these cops come out. They're younger than us, first off, and I'm realizing what ended up happening was, oh, like these guys had to work on Boxing Day, because the veterans they took the day off. So so then they're bullying us a little bit, and I'm like, guys, like, are you serious right now? And so what ended up happening was they searched our cars for stuff, and one of the officers, I remember, this guy was like, he was young and he realized what they were doing was wrong. He was like looking around, like nervous. I'm like, yo, this guy's more scared than we are. He's looking like it's his first day on the job. And so the other ones are like, yeah, we're gonna search your cars or whatever. First off, they're not allowed to search our cars, but we were like, we didn't know any better, so we're like, whatever. They're going through our bags and like they pull out oatmeal and they're like, you guys are in real trouble now, right? Because I put it in a plastic bag. I was like, dude, is this necessary? And so we had a little bit of cannabis on us, and they're like, hey, these are your options. We're gonna confiscate the stuff and you guys can be on your way, or we can give you a ticket and you can fight it in court. And I was like, officer, like,
What did you
this
say?
I said, so you're taking all of it? And he like took a firm stance. He goes, you heard the options. And I was like, officer, like, we're not doing anything wrong. We're in like a park, and it's just recreational use, right? And so like, we're just going to, we don't even have liquor. You know what I mean? We're not even drinkers because that's bad for you. We're like, just, we have a little bit of cannabis. We're consuming it. We're going to the cottage. And he's like, I gave you the options. You guys make your choice. So they ended up taking it. And so we spoke with a buddy of ours who's a police officer, and he goes, that was the best, like, best alternative situation that could have happened, or best outcome for you. What they're gonna do is they're not even gonna file a report on that. They're gonna confiscate that and use it themselves. And we are like, we were kind of screwed there, you know. Anyway, I kind of detracted from the topic of conversation there. Um, Lil Monty says America is a house built on sand. We need to rework from the ground up. That's where we need to acknowledge the history of how it's been built so we can work to have a better build moving forward. Built correctly so that the whole house is supported. Um, I think that's exactly what you were saying about, hey, let's not forget about the hundreds of years of what happened, um, and all that fun stuff, right? So what just happened?
Yeah, man.
Lil Monty, thank you for the sub. I appreciate that. I will donate that to a charity of your cause or of your choice. Bryce says white people aren't born racist. Black people aren't born criminals. It has everything to do with upbringing and whether you fight it or not. And I think we can pretty much agree
I
on
think
that.
yes and no, because like it's not about whether you fight it or not. You're asking a lot of yourself. You're a superhuman if you're growing up in a racist family and you're like, oh yeah, this racism is not for me. You are your environment, and now you're asking yourself, fight everything you're seeing around you. If you can, like, those are the exceptional people. But I think it's asking a lot of someone. You're asking someone to be like, exceptional, to basically ignore their environment. You are your environment, and so it's not just the onus is not just on you. It's on everyone.
And McAfee went back saying like the individualism is treating every person as a single human being rather than part of as a collective. So yeah, I think we kind of addressed that earlier. Bryce says, can a black person can say they hate white people all day, and and it's not racist? What's up with that? That
Oh man, if that's one of the few privileges I have, but it's not even like there's so many that goes both ways. There's so many things I can say, right? Again, black person can't look at America. You can't live safely without being under the stress of the cops. And you're talking about that? Like that's yeah, that shouldn't be fair. But nothing is fair. Like that is such a small thing you're focusing on, man. Like
that's fair. Um, and you know what? So look, there's another topic that I wanted to talk about real briefly. I was talking to some of my cousins about this thing, and I gotta be honest, right? I gotta be honest. I'm not perfect, right? Back when the whole Black Lives Matter movement started, what was it, like 4 years ago or something like that? I kind of looked at it like, hey, like we should move past this. You know, it should be all lives matter. Like, I deal with racism too as a brown man and all that kind of stuff. And so it was kind of interesting in 4 years how much I've kind of had to change the way I used to look at things. And so when they ask me about this now, I saw, because they're younger than I am, they're like almost 10 years younger than me. I saw how I was thinking about this in the first kind of instance, and them confiding in me on that, and I'm like, hey, like, it was like, wow, I'm almost talking to myself in the past. And I was like, hey man, like, I used to think that way too, and you know what, like, we shouldn't look at it like they're getting attention and we're not. That's not how it should be. We should look at it as, dude, they might be the face of this movement, but we're going to benefit off of it too, right? This is a stand for racism, and right now, sure, they're the one. Arguably in America, they've probably experienced the most and the worst. Like, this stuff about the last name, with all that stuff. Similar stuff happened with the Portuguese and the Sri Lankans. Like, my mom's last name's Fernando because they were colonized by the Portuguese. But I mean, like, we don't want to take away from the messaging and be like, oh, what about us or all lives matter? Because that weakens the message, right? And so I told him, the way you approach the topic is very crucial, because and again, who you talk to about this is huge, and how you talk about it is huge, right? So the fact that they're coming at me very innocently and asking me about that, I'm like, good, let me talk to you about how I look at it. You can take from it what you will, and I've got a little few more years around the course, you know what I mean? But anything you want to add on that, Gord?
Oh, you're 100% right. I think, and one of the strengths that apartheid had was the division in South Africa. It was division. So it wasn't just me versus the oppressors. It was me versus this group versus this group versus this group versus the oppressors, right? I'm saying that's like a classic Machiavellian tactic. Spread them out. Change the target. Right?
Weakens their
Um,
joint effort.
yeah. So like the reason why Black Lives Matter should include everyone, and it's it's obviously spearheaded by Black Lives Matter. Again, like black lives are the ones being shot. Those are the ones being absolutely devalued to nothing right now. Right? But at the end of the day, it's like it's not like brown people being getting actually abused. It's not like Asians on. It's like everyone, regardless of who you are. It's everyone. So like this is just the spear that is moving this. But at the end of the day, whether you're white, black, brown, whatever you are, this is a movement that's got to be done together.
Yeah, yeah. We need it needs voices, right? And that's why we're doing this. We just need the voices to be out there so that we create a safe. And again, this isn't us versus like, we're not judging each comment. Like, that's wrong, that's right. That's not what it is. This is a safe space where you can voice your concerns and your opinions, right? And we'll talk about it, right? And we have to be okay with disagreeing on certain things. That's the beauty of being a human, right? We're so different. In fact, Gordon and I, when we talked about this last week, when we came up with this idea of doing this on Twitch, was like, man, I think one of the solutions is that we just need to all be like mixed colors. Like, eventually, there's not going to be white, black, brown, Asian. It's all just going to be kind of this like beige. You know what I mean? And it's gonna take a long time to get there. Um,
It's like those. One of my friends was kind of asking me about, say, like mixed race relationships. Why are they so important? And I was like, well, so important because there are so many circles, whether you like it or not, are now being put together. You're a white or a black, you're a brown, white, whatever you are. This white person will now know at some points what it feels like to be the only white person amongst brown people.
mm,
Their parents will have to accept someone different to them. Like your friends might have only been around people like you. Now, because of your girlfriend or your boyfriend, whoever it is, they have to be exposed to other people.
mm-hmm,
Right? And they are seeing these different perspectives where you're like, man, deciding to marry this brown dude, this black dude, and then you see me like, oh wow, they're like man, that was so much fun. I love to hang out with him. I didn't know we share so much in common. The biggest problem now is people make assumptions. Just think.
Um,
Um,
good point. Um, I hear a lot of "I don't care." That won't fix the problem. What will fix the problem? Um,
which I knew. Um,
yeah, we don't have a solution for that yet.
a buddy of ours, he's also from South Africa. Dave, you know him. Went to university together. We actually had this discussion. Like we got pretty heated last week, where where we had different things that we thought would fix the problem. He was like, "You need to buy more black owned. Everything needs to be black owned." I'm like, "No, but you can't live in this vacuum of a society. We need to mix more. We need more people not like us, basically out empowering everyone else, letting them know what's going on, right? We don't stand for this anymore." So we went back and forth on a bunch of different ideas. I was like, end of it, I was like, dude, you see, like, not even the smartest, nowhere near the smartest of who we are. Like, there have been smarter people over the last like 500 years. They still haven't figured it out.
Hmm. Wow.
Like, it's such a complex problem. It's like there's so much wrong or like so much damage that's been done.
Um, Erox saying he's not so with the single parenthood comment. I'm sorry for the delay, guys. I know we're trying to keep up, and we appreciate all the comments that you guys are dropping in here. Really, like, thank you for that. Thank you for hanging out. Erox saying I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a single parenthood in general causes a bunch of issues for anyone. But it's just a statistic that African Americans have a single parenthood household rates of 75%. I think that's an issue that needs to be discussed. Um,
Yes, but why? So I'm saying, like, my point to him, why I keep asking why, is because like root of it is the systemic racism that's happened, this continuous hardship that has happened, right? So I keep asking him, why do you think parenthood is like that? It's because these are not the greatest conditions that you're in to thrive. Ready, right? Fathers are getting arrested, getting gunned down by the police, involved in other things they see as the best way to get out. Society kind of built these constructs that doesn't allow them to get out. That doesn't allow them to um, to mobily basically increase their status, right? So clearly the system, there's a systematic, I wouldn't even say it's a problem, it's by design. Right? Otherwise you don't just all of a sudden poof, one race has more single parents than the other.
mhm.
There's a reason.
So look, I think
Right?
what go ahead, sorry.
No, go.
I think the thing is you want to it's not a cultural thing, right? Let's just call that out. Like it's not a cultural thing that single parenthood is a more common thing in African American culture. That's not the situation. I think the issue is that like he's saying is there's no education there. There's no programs, right? That kind of stuff happens a lot in like the indigenous areas as well. My sister's going out and teaching there because there's not enough funding or education or even awareness about safe sex practices and any of that, or even like what's prenatal care and any of that stuff doesn't exist, right? So when folks are born into this kind of system, and again, like I'm all for, hey dude, I am not a victim of my circumstances, I refuse to be, I'm all for that, and I'm like that, but you have to understand that like we're not going through that. We're thank I have to say this with a grain of salt. Like thankfully we're not going through it, right? It's unfortunate that someone else does because I would not want to wish that kind of thing on anyone. But that's the issue, right? There's not enough resources being put in at the societal level to those areas so that they're set up for success. And it's not about asking for a handout. That's not what it is. It's not a handout. It's not making it easy for them. It's giving the same shot. Like going to university with us, dude. We had condoms everywhere, everywhere. But guess what? You know how much we had to pay to go to those schools? Like we had to pay a buttload for that. Now, like for like the hood, because I lived across government housing for 20 years of my life. Free condoms are not a thing. You know what I mean? I was baffled that condoms were given out for free in university. I was like, what? Like, what the hell is that? Dental dams? What the fuck is a dental? Do you guys know what a dental dam is? It is a cloth or like a rubbery thing that's kind of like a condom that you put over a woman's genitalia so you can perform fellatio on her without getting any oral STIs. What the That was given out for free. Like, if I went to the hood that I lived across and told them about that, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Let alone they have to pay for it. You know what I mean? So it's about those things, right? Anything you want to add on to that before we move on?
That's perfect.
Cool. Um, so Qatar the Odd, what's going on, Q? Equality in education. So great segue. In Canada, the education favors natives at the university level. They tend to expect just to pass with minimal effort, and people are graded on a curve favoring those who put in less work.
How many natives does he know that have graduated?
Not very many, right? And that's
How many did you see at U of T? How
zero.
many? I don't
I don't know
like.
any. I don't know any, right?
Like
And
that's a nothing right there. Like
here's the thing, like my sister and I'm getting a little bit of a glimpse into that society and that in that culture as well because my sister works out in the Northwest Territories and yeah, like legit her job is to develop after school activities for these kids so that they see the value of going finishing high school and going to college or university. One, they never make it out of the bubble in the area that they're lived in. So like literally she forwent some of her salary so that she could put more money into the funding of the program so that she can take them to Nunavut, to Ottawa, to be like, yo, dude, if you like, if you break free of these circumstances, take advantage of this, study hard, don't get, caught into the alcohol trap or the drug trap. These are the opportunities that are available to you. So here's the thing on one end, I see where you're coming from because it's the opposite end of the spectrum of, hey, things are easier for people with certain privileges. Now it's like, why are we making it easier for other people if you want equality? However, and Godfrey, you're going to say it, so go ahead.
yeah, it's not easier for them. Like they've had so much taken away from them, and think about like history of it is atrocious. This is a people that were on this land, and you don't see them anywhere. Now you're like, oh yeah, for thank you, we'll make you have we'll allow you to have lower grades to graduate. Like that's this. I, I think it's not even making it easier
It's not
because
on the
they're
same
not
playing
getting
field,
to
yeah.
the level to even achieve this quote unquote easy path they're being given. They're not even getting there.
Yeah,
That's like an empty gesture.
it's like such a small portion of the grand scheme of what they have to deal with. Like for them to even get to university, it's like they have to like walk through lava compared to what we have to do. So it's like, okay,
You
fine,
have
if
to
we're
be
gonna
so exceptional.
right, you have to be exceptional. So for them to get there, it's like, okay, fine, we're gonna give them a little like Mario Kart boost. Fine, like that's so small in the grand scheme of things. And actually, what it does is arguably, it enables those a subset of those folks to demonstrate that it is possible for everyone else to bridge that gap, right? So sometimes you have to throw a line to people so that they can make their way across, right? Because we have a paved road. Um,
It's just to piggyback off of that. It's like one of those things where I said you have to. If you don't see someone like you winning, how do you know what that even looks like? A good example of that is like a lot of villages in Malawi, bubble they know, like being successful is being a truck driver.
wow.
So, you know, you could have an aunt, an uncle, or relative that is like, hey, I've got money for you now so that you can go to school. The kids are like, why? I see winning in my village as being a truck driver. I don't need to go to school for that. So like because that's the bubble they know. Now, if you like amplify that and you look at Native Americans, that's what they're having to kind of right. It's like this is the little bubble I know. The people that I see winning are relatively winning. don't see any CEO, right? Or like,
Mm,
how many CEOs do they see? How many do they see like are taking that path? And
yeah.
so like, it's exactly like you're saying.
Um, Ran, I have a question, Dave. I am Dave's preference. Dave, my question is, how are you so hot? Rand, thank you for that. I'm very flattered. Uh, on to Eros, for real. Okay, Viper. You know that Asian Americans and Indian Americans are the richest in America, yet people don't say the Asian privilege. Um, Again, I guess those are the exceptions, though, right? Um,
Yeah, these are
like they're
exceptions. Like,
peaks in the valley versus like,
and again, how many like famous Asian uh people can you name? Asian American people can you name versus say like white people? How many Asian American CEOs do you know? How many Asian American actors, actresses do you know? Like, yes, they are winning there, but I think from a numbers perspective, like, correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to hear a perspective from someone that's Asian American or Indian American. I would love to hear that perspective. And see, maybe they agree. Maybe there is this privilege they see, but
maybe,
it's
yeah,
not for us. We're not living their shoes, so how can we say that?
yeah. Um, Shoot, I had a thought. I lost it.
Sorry.
No, no, no. Like it's not your fault. It's mine. What happens nowadays? Too many things going on. You know what I mean? Um, Guitar Q says, in my opinion, education should be based on merit, ability, merit slash ability, not social status, race. Um, hmm.
Yeah, not starting at the same starting spots.
um, Bran, Bran, I wasn't ignoring you. I'm still catching up, buddy. I hope you're still here. Apologize for that. I just messaged you in regards to the same ideas. Did they take the oatmeal too? No, they didn't. Does anyone know of Metroid? If Metroid's taking questions, I'd like to know his opinion on a couple topics. Um, you can ask a question; they will eventually read it. Mainly talking about previous questions. Next time you do something like this, let me know so I can push it to my people. You, I appreciate that for sure. Any opinions on cops and their Blue Lives Matter movement? Uh, Still laughing. Um, I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm not surprised, but did you want to
Yeah.
start?
I mean, again, I think it's just taking the focus away of what the real problem is. Um, it's trying to undermine the problem.
Mm-hmm. I
Like, sure, their lives matter, but again, these issues, this hasn't come about because they have been these model citizens that are like, oh, poor us, we're getting attacked. It's no, you're killing people who are not even protected based on your prejudice.
yeah, yeah. Like it's kind of easy for you to say. Again, you put your lives on the line. I did give you the respect earlier. Like shout out to the cops out there that are good people, good-hearted. And again, they make decisions. That's fine. But like putting your fucking knee on a guy's throat for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I don't care what the person did. That's what Dave Chappelle said too. No one deserves that.
Yeah.
No one deserves that. That's like fuck. So yeah, like look, um their lives matter, right? But again, it's deteriorating from the message of the issues at hand here, the real core issues. So, Tacos is saying, I'm curious on his thoughts on Black Lives Matter in terms of strategy. As a black dude in California, a vast majority of my political interactions are liberal. If I were to move to Arkansas, those views shift to the right. Do you think Black Lives Matter's problem is a lack of leadership? I feel like it doesn't have a clear enough voice. Every black person has a different remedy to racism, and, in my opinion, makes it harder for the movement to catch wind.
Those are all good points. Um, I think the challenge is again, um, I don't know if anyone really knows the answer, right? So I think having, let's say there's one leader that has this one movement, this one following. Like the thing is, black people's experiences have all been different, but they've all been a lot of them have been negative, but in different ways. So one, like you said, one remedy is not necessarily the right remedy for another group of black people, right? If that makes sense. So I think like I don't have the answer for you. I really, and maybe that's where Black Lives Matter is coming from. I don't know. But I think it's just hard to put, especially put the shoulders on one person and be like, look, you are the figure of this movement, and you are dictating how this is going. Like that's, I don't think there is someone like that. It's really like maybe the effectiveness is because it's everyone, because it's coming from so many angles, because it's so many different perspectives. Right? Maybe that's what I'm thinking. But I couldn't tell you. It's a great question. I think it's something within your own community, pulse of, like you said, the pulse of how Black Lives Matter is in California, and the situation that Black people are in is probably so different to Arkansas. So having this one message that fits these two, when these two are in such different stages, might not be the best way to go about it. But I don't know. I'm not in the inner workings of them, so I'm just kind of like you, experiencing everything and seeing where this goes.
I think Chappelle hit on it really well. And if you guys haven't seen that video, that clip of 846, there people are like, "How come you're not saying anything? How come you're not saying anything?" He's like, "Dude, I've been saying shit for years." You know what I mean? He's been
Yeah.
saying stuff for so long, both seriously and through his comedic like videos and the Chappelle show and his stand up and all that stuff. But he's like, "I don't need to say anything because this is the streets talking, right? Like I don't need to like piggyback off of this. Like you guys fuck the streets up. Now they're speaking. You're gonna have to see the repercussions of it. And frankly, I agree with how they're doing it. Um, so he talks about some really serious thing. It's on YouTube. You can just Google Chappelle 846. And then even that thing that he talked about Chris Dorner, I didn't even know about that until he brought that
Oh
up.
man.
So for
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, Chris Dorner was a police officer, an African American police officer. He had a partner who was female Caucasian. And again, I'm just these are objective things. It has nothing to do with their race right now. So what ended up happening was they had a warrant for someone's arrest. And again, anyone like here, I'm gonna scroll down in the comments. Um, you know, you guys let me know if I'm wrong or interpreted this wrong. But they had a warrant for this dude's arrest. The woman used excessive force on the individual. Like she kicked him, like just fucked him up basically, right? So Chris didn't feel that was right. He's like, hey, this person's not even resisting or whatever. Like it was excessive force. So actually, I don't know if he wasn't resisting, but it was excessive force. He filed a complaint against this individual, saying, hey, against the his partner that was out with them, saying, hey, she used excessive force. It wasn't right. The system, went ahead and said, "Hey, dude, you made up lies about your partner, and you're in shit now." And he's like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" After several hearings, he ended up getting pulled out of the force as a result, right? So he's like, "Okay, like this is messed up. Like, I went and did what I thought was right because this person used excessive force, and now they are hiding the problem and now reinforcing it and doing me wrong." So now they've soiled my name for doing something that was right, standing up for a human being, and he ended up going fucking crazy, right? And by going crazy, he wrote a manifesto, confessing everything that happened. He goes, he confessed different things that happened within the force. One officer called him the N word, and he said, "Don't say that." He said, "I'll do it whenever I want." Choked the guy out. He got in shit for it. This was stuff prior to this incident, and so he said, "Enough's enough." He ended up going on a killing spree and killing 4 police officers or something like that. Then they ended up finding him in a cabin, and when they called in that they found his cabin, 400 police officers answered the call and showed up there. Something crazy like that. And so Chappelle relates that to what's going on right now. It's like, listen, you guys murdered someone in the streets. And now this is the equivalent of the streets answering to that. And you guys are wondering why? Like, you guys are confused as to why, or trying to unjustify it. So I guess that was a story. I don't know. Did I miss anything or?
Oh no, and I think the one of the most powerful things there is now that this is happening, people are now trying to point out wrongs.
Mhm.
They did this, they did this, they did this, but it's like now it's convenient to point out those wrongs. I mean, like what about the other side? But it's an interesting story because I think like yeah, it just puts into perspective what from the other side why they are reacting the way they are.
He's a genius. Like, he's
Is
insane how he kind of tied those two things together. Truth be told, I didn't know of that story until I saw that video. Like, did you know about that? Like, I didn't even know who he was. And
Yeah, me neither.
you don't hear about that at all, right? Um, so Q says the history of it's terrible. I also know a lot of the elders in the area who went through reservation schools, who went to university before the curves were put in. They, as parents, have tried to push the youth to educate themselves, but the youth choose to embrace the stereotype rather than continue to lift themselves up. And that's again the system, right? It's like
Yeah,
they're
that's what they see.
they're used to everything. They're used to unjust systems, and so they just conform to it, and they think I can't change anything, right? So
You're taught, you're hardwired to do that. Like or like it's just everywhere, and then you're expecting these people to just be like, nope, I'm done with this, and I'm somehow just gonna break through these barriers that are there for me.
yeah, I don't know. How are you looking for time? We've been doing this for 2.5 hours. Doesn't even feel that way.
Yeah, I need to wrap up.
Yeah. So okay.
Um,
So let's wrap. Yeah. Hold on
I mean,
one.
if there's other questions, why don't they send it to you? We can just answer those questions at some point.
Yeah.
If they want to, you
Do a
know,
follow
if
up or
we
something like
want to
that.
keep this going, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm happy to do that. And so Viper, what I'm gonna do with that video that you sent is Godfrey and I are gonna watch it. It's Officer
I'll
Tatum
watch it for
talking
sure.
about the 846. I thought we could watch it, perhaps take a break and have a little thought analysis of it. So why don't we do this? Why don't we watch it offline, and then we'll come back with our thoughts on it, and we can kind of come together. If you're down to do this again, I'm down, Godfrey. Um,
For sure.
yeah.
We can do this another time, and yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for thanks for being in my life, man. I appreciate you. Um, Erock,
You, man.
everyone else that stuck
Appreciate
around, I know this is different from our regular scheduled programming. Usually we're talking shit, playing Smash Bros. And stuff like that. But I thought, hey, you know what? Let's do our part and at least talk about it. Um,
Those were awesome questions.
yeah, great
They were
question.
awesome questions. I think again the ones that aren't just I think it was what's his name? Sorry, give me
Erock or Viper?
Erock, yeah. Like those honest questions are necessary.
Yeah,
They're so necessary.
yeah. Yeah, you need to ask the questions, right? And obviously, like, you guys, I think, approached it a very constructive, safe way, and that's what we wanted. So we appreciate it. Um, we got to bring attention and listen to each other's perspectives, and that's all that it was. And yeah, like, dude, if this is the only productive thing that comes out of this Twitch channel, other than me finding a productive way to play video games, I'm happy with it, right? So again, everyone, thank you for hanging out. We'll catch you later. And Godfrey, again, thank you.
Thanks
Eh?
everyone. Thanks for the chat, man.
Take care. All right, folks. Again, I respect you all, man. That it took a lot to, sit down and talk about this stuff. It's not comfortable, but thanks again. I will catch you guys later. I'll probably post this on YouTube too. If you have any suggestions, any comments, anything like that you want to send my way, send it in a DM. I can't thank you enough for just kind of supporting me branching out of my comfort zone. Truth be told, I felt like I didn't want to do this right before it happened. Like an hour before, I was like, maybe we should push this out. I'm not ready. I was like, screw it, dude. Let's just do it. I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm not gonna say the right thing half the time, but I'm just gonna try it out. I'm getting some positive feedback. But anything that you think that we could have done to improve it, anything I could have done differently, let me know. But other than that, peace.